2. East Hampton Town Board, we are live, being streamed and recording.
Great. Thank you, LTV. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the East Hampton Town Board work session of Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. Carol, if you could please do the roll call.
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So this morning we open with public portion, and we ask you to kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes, and then we'll move on to our topics. We have our friends from the Montauk Historical Society here today to give us an update. It's Joe Gaviola, Mia Sertic, Martha Reichart, and Dick White. Welcome today. We then will have a presentation on our community services, the 2024 accomplishments and 2025 goals for 2 of our departments. We have Diane Patrizio, the Director of Human Services, and our Superintendent of Recreation, John Rooney, presenting. Then Joanne Pilgrim will present the 2025 First-Time Homebuyer Assistance Program. And then we'll have an after-hearing discussion on the gross floor area formula. That was a public hearing we heard on March 6th, and that will be led by Deputy Supervisor Kate Rogers. That'll be followed by liaison reports, and then we have a few resolutions. So we're going to start with folks that signed up, and we have, I'm sorry, Ellen, I can't read your middle name, Cook. Okay, please come up to the podium.
I just wanted to.
What? Sorry, we have you. Folks at home can hear you. Welcome, Ellen.
Good morning. I wanted to express some concern.
You just have to state your name for the
My
record.
name is Ellen McMahon Cook. I live in Montauk, New York, on Essex Street. I have some concerns about some things that I heard about the possible transfer of both Kirk Park and the Second House property to the Montauk Historical Society, which is a wonderful organization, but the transfer of a large portion of public land to a private entity is something that we should be concerned about, as space is shrinking in our town, and then it would be difficult to control what happens on that property and who has access to it and in what ways. And I'm just asking the town board to proceed with tremendous caution, not to keep the Montauk Historical Society from continuing to operate on that property, but I don't understand the reasons for ownership, rather than the town retaining ownership of that. And as we've seen in the country in the last 8 weeks, things change radically, quickly over time, so that what sounds like one plan might not be the same plan in 2 years, and the town would have nothing to say about that largely. You might end up in court over it, but it just seems like a shame to give up a huge portion of at the front of our town of public property, and then cede control over that to a private organization. That's my concern.
Okay.
Not that I don't love the Montauk Historical Society, but still, it's a principle. That's it.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, that's all we have signed up. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board? Gloria? Welcome, Gloria. You can pull that down and make it. There you go.
Getting on tiptoe. You saw. Gloria Frazee, Rewald, Long Island, East Hampton. I'm in my 60s. I still remember my mother saying, "Clean up your room, young lady." And I also remember when I finally did it with great reluctance and put everything away, all the dolls that I didn't really play with anyway, but back on the shelf. She's saying, "Good girl, that's great. Everything nice and clean, lovely." Somehow, I'm betting I'm not the only person who's experienced this dynamic. Anyone else? Yeah, a couple heads nodding. Somehow we've brought that forward into our adult lives, where we feel like we need to clean up everything and be good people, and showing that we're taking care of our house, our everything by cleaning up. There's some places that don't want to be cleaned up, like our yards at this point in time. Until the temperatures hit 50 degrees and stay there for an entire week, day and night, you've got a massive number of beneficial pollinators and other insects living in the leaves, in the soil. And every time now that I hear gas-powered leaf blower blowing, it's like, I just think this is the sound of death. We are killing our natural resource by thinking that we need to clean up right now. And I'm itching with everyone else to get my hands in the ground right now and start, getting everything ready for spring and more planting. But I also know it's the wrong thing to be doing right now. So I'd like to encourage people to wait. And this also then ties in with the discussion you'll have later on about GFA, in that what we do matters, what we decide matters, how we act in our own yards, and how we help our community take care of our properties matters. And I want to make sure that we're preserving, protecting, and nurturing our community in every way, from the smallest insects to all of our treasured community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Would anyone else like to address the board? Jason, is there anyone on the line?
We have no callers on the line.
Okay, I'm going to go one more time. Is there anyone here that would like to come to the podium? All right, we're going to move on to our topics. So we welcome the Montauk Historical Society. Joe, are you going to kick it off for us? Welcome.
Okay. Supervisor Gonzalez, member of the town board. I'm Joe Gaviola, and I'm president of the Montauk Historical Society, and always proud to say that I am the keeper of the Montauk Lighthouse. So when I was last before you at a work session a couple months ago, it was packed with speakers on house and lot size. So my comments, I'm sure, got lost in the wash. But I and we appreciate the invitation back, Kathy, to update the board on the wonderful work being conducted by MHS and our partnerships. I'm here with some associates from Historical Society. Martha Reichert is here, our vice president and lead counsel. Mia Sertic, our executive director. I saw John McDonald someplace here also. One of our directors is over here. Also, Jason Walter, site manager, and Amy Hubbard, our assistant site manager. Marilyn Bogdan, one of our directors in the back corner. And did I get everyone? And Dick White, not sure how to characterize him outside of maybe just saying legendary Dick White, who is also on our board. First, a quick description of the MHS structure. So we have a 10-member board, and I'm absolutely blessed with a very dedicated and professional board. We have expertise in Montauk's history. We have multiple financial experts. We have a legal expert, building experts, and definite hospitality experts. We have a combined about 600 years of living in Montauk experience, but if you bring Dick into that, it might be half of it, so. We have 7 major committees that are fully staffed, passionate, and fully involved, and meet regularly and take minutes. We have an amazing administrative staff under our wonderful executive director, Mia Sertic, and we have 8 full-time employees, and we hire about 25 part-time in season. Our budget this year is going to be about 2.7 million, and we have extremely tight fiscal controls over it. We want you to know you have a strong, reliable, and dedicated partners in the properties we are aligned with. I want to wholeheartedly express how grateful MHS is of the town's support and investment with MHS. And I know I speak for all of Montauk when I say that. Second house looks amazing. It's been almost 11 years, Dave?
I've been on the board 8, 7.
I think it's 11 years since it was last open, and we can't wait to celebrate its rebirth with you in the near term. What a wonderful, welcoming sight as people drive into Montauk and see this absolute treasure. I want to thank Councilman Lees for hanging in there with us, bringing it to completion, and all of your unwavering financial investment into it. Fisher House. It's hard for me personally to put into words how important that CPF acquisition was to MHS and Montauk. After the acquisition being turned down in 2018, it was crushing. To get a second bite at the apple and have the town acquire it in 2022 is indescribable, and I actually get emotional about it. It is such a historic treasure and a centerpiece of our historic mission. So we very much look forward to working with the town and restoring it to its former glory. We have a short video now for about 4 minutes, if LTV can put that up.
Yep. And
Jason?
yep. Doing it right now. Let me just go turn this off. And in 3, 2.
Are you guys ready out there? I gotta hear some noise. One more time, a little louder.
I'm guessed.
Back to the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7,
Pretty cool stuff. And I want to thank Mia's husband, Mia Drag, for putting that together for us, summarizing our year. Just have a few comments about the Montauk Lighthouse, since we're here and this is public and everyone knows I'm actually crazy about the lighthouse. So it always amazes us how many people don't realize we actually own the lighthouse. We fully cover our operating expenses with our gate, gift shop, events, and donations. We don't receive any tax dollars for its operation outside of $15,000 from a Suffolk County grant. So I have to say that. We pay for everything ourselves. Approximately one second. We're a National Historic Landmark. We leased the lighthouse in 1987 and took ownership in 1996. Annual on-site visitors are just over 100,000. We have visitors from all 50 states, sometimes in a single year. And we've had visitors from over 100 countries come to the lighthouse. Approximately 1.4 million people drive past the lighthouse every year. There's a state park counter right there, the little wire that goes across the road. We take pride in being the symbol of Long Island. We completed a major restoration of the lighthouse tower and associated structures in 2023 at a cost of $1.8 million. The new revetment has been a huge success in holding back the ocean's elements. It is now a major walking visitor attraction. We're embarking on a new property restoration, recreation, and visitor experience. It would involve an improved entrance and exit, and most importantly, a structure that would expand our historic mission and interpretation of the lighthouse and Montauk's history. We're in discussions with SHPO, deeply in discussions with SHPO, on what we can do or cannot do with our existing 1838 keeper's dwelling and a possible 1796 keeper's dwelling. It's early, but we've been at this for about a year now. We've had discussions with the planning department and other agencies. I can't offer much more yet, but wanted to give you a heads up that this is something we are committing to and you'll be hearing about in the near term. And now I think I'll hand off to Mia and then Dick. I'm not sure if Martha's going to speak or not, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Welcome, Mia.
Thank you. Good to be here. My papers. My glasses on. So as you saw in our film, last year was quite a year for the Montauk Historical Society. But I'm very happy to speak to you here today, Supervisor Burke-Gonzalez and Town Board, to share some of our upcoming events for the spring and summer. And I want to start with Second House. Joe's already made mention of Second House. We are so thrilled with how it looks and all the work that's been accomplished. It's been a long road. We're very, very happy with where we are right now. I want to thank particularly the Town Board and David Lee's our liaison, the wonderful Bob Hefner, Drew Bennett, all the town employees who've helped this project along over the years, especially Tony Lippman and Jim Pinkett. The house is exquisitely beautiful, and we cannot wait to share it with the community. So we are planning an exhibition this summer. Nathaniel Ward is a poet and photographer. His work is collected by the Museum of Modern Art, the Guggenheim, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the Parish. Photographs of his have been published in Aperture, Interview, Vogue, Vogue Italia, and the British Journal of Photography, as well as many other prestigious magazines. Simon & Schuster is publishing a book of his photographs called Ditch, Montauk, New York, 11954, in May. It is an absolutely gorgeous book of photographs that he took over several years when he was doing a summer with the Albee Foundation. I am thrilled to announce that the book launch will be at Second House. It's a huge honor. It's a great way to welcome lots of people into Second House. And especially as this summer, the property will see the return of the craft fair and the vintage flea market. And I think we'll have a lot of people on the property who'll be able to come inside, see the museum, and see the exhibition at the same time. We're planning the exhibition to run from Memorial Day to Labor Day. The preview and reception is tentatively scheduled for May 23rd, and the exhibition would open the following day. And we're really, really excited about it. We're also getting the garden into shape. It's now being reimagined as more of a traditional cottage garden, which will include both flowers and herbs that would have been grown here in the 18th and 19th centuries, both for cooking and medicinal purposes. We're really glad that we've had advice and inspiration from garden historian Barbara Ferrante, who has advised us on plants and their uses and has spent many, many hours weeding and planting in the garden. Meanwhile, the Carl Fisher House has become a vibrant gathering place and cultural center. We have focused on programming, and our range has been quite wide, as you may have noticed in our little film. This May, we're hosting a very special recital featuring bass baritone Andrew Dwan, who will be making his solo debut this year at the Deutsche Symphonie Berlin, the Hong Kong Philharmonic, and the Beijing Symphony. I heard him last autumn at the New York Philharmonic, and he was amazing. He has chosen a selection of mainly American composers for us, plus a little Mozart, and will be making his Carl Fisher House debut on May 17th. This is a terrific chance to see a world-class opera singer here in Montauk, and we're so lucky to have him. We have also started working up some excitement around our summer exhibition at Fisher by hosting our spring lecture series on rum running, featuring Hugh King and Dave Cataletto. Hugh's first lecture was last week. It was brilliant, as always. And Dave will join us on April 23rd to talk about Montauk and Prohibition. And on May 7th, Hugh comes back to tell us all about how and why Prohibition failed. So we'll be building on the success of last year's award-winning Leisure-Rama exhibition. And if you missed it, there's a virtual tour on our website. Our summer exhibition this year will be called How Dry We Weren't, Rum Running and Moonshine in Montauk. It will be both immersive and interactive. Not to give anything away, but when I say immersive, I mean there's going to be a speakeasy. And there'll be lots of really cool interactive elements, including a very special oral history corner with a video component. We have a 1920s telephone booth where you can pick up the phone and listen in on a bootlegger's conversation while the FBI is listening in on another line. And we have a Morse code game and more. So there will be something for everyone of all ages, of all levels, of all interest levels, and there's going to be something interesting for everybody, I think. The exhibition will be seriously steeped in history, both local and national. And what we're going to do is we will focus on personal stories of people who lived and or worked in Montauk at that time to illustrate how Prohibition really turned our little hamlet upside down and affected everyone who lived there. There will be tie-in events throughout the summer with this theme. For example, we're planning a boat tour around rum running spots in Montauk, and then we're going to carry on to Greenport, where we do a walking tour of the waterside, and then we hope to have lunch at Claudio's. And there will be other tie-in events, lectures, and tours, and so on and so forth. All be on our website. Rum Running will open late June with, of course, a roaring 20s party and music of the era. Carl Fisher was a legendary hope, and we intend to do him proud. How Dry We Weren't will also run through Labor Day. I just want to mention that we're very grateful to other local historical societies, including East Hampton, Bridgehampton, East and Seaport Museum and Marine Foundation, which have volunteered to share artifacts and expertise with us. Just a quick word about the Lighthouse events. We have a lot going on at the Lighthouse all summer. We are going to have our Stony Brook lectures as usual every week, which focus on really the environment, marine environment particularly. And we will have our triathlon, which I believe is is it the most popular?
The biggest sprint in the Northeast.
Biggest sprint in the Northeast. That's on July 20th. And we will be having concerts this summer as well. Just carrying on from the Pelican, I just want to mention, you saw the Pelican Memorial dedication in the film. This year we'll have our 4th annual Pelican commemoration. Every year it's a little bit bigger. And this year we will be showing a screening of our feature documentary about the Pelican, which is called The Pelican, an American Tragedy. And that on a date to be determined. We have always held it on Labor Day weekend because that's when the Pelican went down, but it has become really tricky for some of the people who are coming in from out of town, and a lot of them are coming in from quite a distance for this, so we may change the date. Word about the Indian Museum. Lawrence Cook, the founder of the museum, who worked very hard there for many, many years, has left MHS. And we're now taking a moment to rethink the museum, try to work with the indigenous people who live here, and perhaps focus more on programming to invigorate the museum space. We've just completed a thorough inventory of the Montauk Indian Museum, which we've shared with the Montaukets, and we're waiting for their feedback. And I just want to announce a complete new redesign of our annual publication, The Beacon, which has been published continuously for 37 years. We'll be printing 12,000 copies for free distribution in our museums and in other locations between Montauk and Bridgehampton. And that's it from me. Please visit our website, montaukhistoricalsociety.org. Join our mailing list. Please, please, please come to any and all of our events. Thank you.
And I'm also hoping that we'll have you folks back maybe in April or May where we can talk more about Second House, because it'll be, right, we'll have photos of, it'll be completed by then.
I hope the turnover is then, yes.
So, Dick?
Oh, sorry, I should let you know.
Welcome, Dick.
Good morning. Town Board, good morning. I'd just like to point out that when I was in my late 20s, I sat right on where Tom is sitting now. Most of you weren't even born then. So I'm probably the oldest of the old farts in this room today. I was hoping Huey King was going to be here because we graduated the same night from East Hampton High School. And he's known as the town crier, although between us, we debate who's the town crier and who's the town liar. My interest in Montauk history goes back to 1952 when Dick Gilmartin, the Montauk resident and businessman, would, on a Saturday, many Saturdays, would put 6 or 7 young Montauk lads in his 98 Oldsmobile and take us all around the East End, as far away as Eastport and Shelter Island and so forth. And he talked about the Montauks, the Shinnecocks, the British when they were here during the Revolution, Camp Wyckoff, Teddy Roosevelt, Camp Welsh. Many of you don't even know about Camp Welsh, which was in the center of Montauk in the World War I. And the shipwrecks, and especially the John Milton. For me, he brought Montauk history alive. And it was very, very important after that to know the history of Montauk and to help disseminate it with other people. So in 1965, after I graduated from college and moved back to Montauk to help my father run the liquor store, I joined a Montauk Historical Society. Peggy Joyce was the president. Peggy Joyce was also my first and second grade teacher. That's important. It comes up later. During those 60 years that I've been involved with MHS, we have had a wonderful relationship with the East Hampton Town Board on many levels, on many issues. The board, in fact, in 1968, at the urging of Montauk resident and East Hampton councilman who sat where you're sitting, Frank Borth, urged the town to purchase Second House. And since then, MHS has been in the care and keeping of it. In fact, during the years in the 70s, when I was a councilman and in charge of parks, beaches, and historic places, Peggy Joyce had my phone number on speed dial. One of the interesting first things I had to do, we had a raccoon problem in the attic of Second House. So it was my job every morning to go to Herb's Market, get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, go crawl up in the attic where it was dusty and spiders and all kinds of stuff. And in a have a heart trap, I would place the peanut butter and jelly sandwich to capture the raccoon. I would then proceed to come up to East Hampton in my office. And when I went home, I'd go upstairs, and sure enough, peanut butter and jelly sandwich would be gone, the trap would be sprung, no raccoon. So I did this 3 or 4 times. It was costing me my whole salary. Didn't get paid much then. And peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Finally, the dog warden gave me a great big trap to catch this raccoon. The only problem was when I got in it, I was afraid if I didn't do it right, I would get caught in the trap and I'd be up in the attic and no one would, I don't know. Anyway. One of the things that I'm really, really happy about is recently the town board took over a 12-year project of rehabilitating Second House. It was really important that it be done because the wiring in that building was ready to spark a fire, and we would have lost it. So now we have all new mechanicals, and it's beautiful. You got to come down and see it. I know, David, you've seen it. Kathy, I don't know if you have. Tom, I know you have. Also, the town board recently approved the acquisition of the Carl Fisher House and surrounding 10 acres, and also leased it to the MHS for its care and making sure it's kept in good condition and bringing it to life for the Montauk community. I am so very thankful that the wonderful working relationship that started over 60 years with the East Hampton Town Board and MHS thrives today. Thank you for your efforts and your care. That's it.
Thank you, Dick. All right, well, we're grateful to be partners with the Montauk Historical Society and all you good folks.
Madam Supervisor, you mind?
Yeah, sure.
So with the Montauk Historical Society, I know Joan mentioned it. You overwatch a National Historical Landmark. You overwatch 2 local landmarks, and now there's an application to put Second House onto the state and National Historical Register, and we completely support that. There is also work out there in Montauk for First House. There's Second House, but there's always First House. There's Third House. I'd love to see First House at some point. But what I want to say is on my first week on the town board, you actually have another treasurer behind you, and he's got a little hat on. His name's Jason Walter, who's a former officer in charge of Coast Guard Station Montauk, works with the MHS. That first week, I went out, when I was appointed to the town board, I went out to the Montauk Lighthouse. At the Montauk Lighthouse, there is a structure out there that the town actually is duly contracted to maintain, and that's the Lost at Sea Memorial. The Lost at Sea Memorial, a lot of the impetus for that was surrounding the loss of one of my best friend's fathers in 1985, Mike Stedman on the Windblown. First thing I went out there, I saw Jason out there to make sure there's anything that's needed for that Lost at Sea Memorial, that town board will work with the Montauk Historical Society to fix. That there is also a treasure in many different ways to East Hampton, because there's many of a history of fishermen that are out there that we have to protect. So overall, my entire lifetime, I remember going up into when the Coast Guard owned the tower, and my dad somehow knew one of the Coast Guard guys, and I would climb up there as a little kid, scared. But now I go up there with my own kids, let them roll down the banks of outside, and it's just absolutely a pleasure. So it's been a pleasure of mine to work with the Montauk Historical Society over these years. I look forward to continuing the relationship. I know it's been a little bit of a long path to get Second House restored. It's a wonderful restoration. We look forward to doing the same, continue on with the other local landmark with the Carl Fisher House, because what you've been able to express to the town board as a vision, you're putting it out there for everyone to see on film. That is very impressive. So as many times as it's been a rocky or difficult road, the vision and the end result is really there right now. So I commend that, and I commend this board and the past boards for seeing that and working with the Montauk Historical Society and all of our historical societies. But I really wanted to make sure everyone knew what else was also out there at the Lost at Sea Memorial, because that's something that hits me truly to my blood and my heart. And I hope my friend Willie is listening. Thank you.
Thank you. I just add one point, which is, from a business perspective, one thing that many people don't realize is that, especially in the off-season, the darker months, the traffic generated by the lighthouse and the other historical elements in the hamlet are critical. You know, you might only get a few rooms in your hotel or a few visitors into your shop, but that allows you to keep a staff on. You know, having that year-round staff, it means you can hire local. So, you know, as we look at the Montauk Historical Society, I thank you for that too, genuinely. I think, you know, without the preservation of these resources to the town, it would have knock-on effects in the community elsewhere. So I applaud you for your management of the properties you have. Thank you.
I just would like to add that I didn't know you were clocking. I added to quite a bit of that count going around the lighthouse almost on a daily basis after work. And I know this is across town. So it's everyone in town that appreciates the work that you do and benefits from it in ways that are hard to articulate, business certainly, but also for our own mental health and well-being and our sense of community. And when I see, you know, the events that you're having, it really touches my heart that this is our community and this is who we are. And I thank you so much for being able to bring us together. And maybe I should let you know how many times I go around the lighthouse. Might want to adjust that because it's really special to take the ride out, cross the stretch, as you know, I know some people are hesitant to do, and then get to that lighthouse and see our history from that George Washington dedication to the families that are enjoying it today. So thank you so much for all you do.
All right. And we hope to have you back in April and be there in May when we're ready to launch Second House. So thank you. Okay, so next up we have the presentations from Diane Patrizio and John Rooney. They're going to present their 2024 accomplishments and 2025 goals. So we're going to start with Diane and Human Services. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay.
So Anne Marie can help with that?
Joanne. So we just have to give it, we just have to give it a minute.
Okay.
We just need to wait for the PowerPoint to get logged in.
Pardon me, everybody. We just need to hold for 2 seconds. We're just figuring out some problems here.
Okay. Joanne, are you able to log in, or is it the problem on
I had
our
to
end?
I had to send her over a new email link. We had some sort of link glitch over here on our end. We had everything ready to go, and then it stopped.
Got it.
Joanne, you should have the sign-in info. Okay, you're being admitted in right now.
Great.
And that completely happened on our end. There was a glitch on our end with the link for a second there, so that's totally our fault. My apologies.
No worries.
All right, here we go.
All right. You're on.
Okay. Good morning, Supervisor and Town Board members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Human Services Department and our 2024 accomplishments and our 2025 goals. The Human Services Department mission is to support with dignity and respect children, adults, and families in order to expand opportunities and enhance lives. Our vision is to improve the quality of life for those we serve, and our values are integrity, collaboration, innovation, humanity, inclusion, and teamwork. Our 2024 accomplishments include our Grab and Go Meal Program. The Grab and Go Meal Program has expanded its reach, especially among younger participants who weren't previously part of the congregate nutrition program. This model has resonated with individuals who may not be homebound, but prefer the convenience of takeout due to time constraints or personal comfort. It's opened new doors to people to learn about our services and created a more inclusive environment for those hesitant to dine in. In addition, we're reframing aging with Wellness 60+ program. Today's older adults want more than traditional activities. They're looking for education, fitness, and social engagement, and our programs reflect that shift. We have technology classes. Many seniors are embracing the technology classes, and we've incorporated more digital learning opportunities. We changed the time of our chair yoga class. After feedback, we decided that the class at 11 a.m. would better accommodate our members. And we continue our partnership with the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation, which outdates me, so I just want to make sure to bring that up. Blanca continues to provide monthly blood pressure readings at our center, which helps our seniors stay on top of their health. Our senior transportation program has been invaluable. In Montauk in 2024, we enhanced services to help with prescription pickups. This year, we've also added a new driver to our team, and hopefully we'll reach more people, be providing more services, and we are still looking for more drivers. Safety and building upkeep. A much-needed facelift of the senior center began in 2024. Thank you to the building and grounds carpenters. Weather permitting, we'll continue to enhance our building's appearance with power washing and staining this spring. We're also improving security by installing cameras in the parking lot and around the center to ensure safety for the many users of the building, because the building is even used in the evening and on weekends. We've also done some things in Montauk. So the Montauk Community Support included a kitchen upgrade. When we learned that the kitchen equipment in the Montauk Community Senior Center needed replacing, the town secured capital funding to upgrade their kitchen, which includes a new refrigerator, freezer, stove, and convection oven. Jean Carrozza was instrumental in helping get this done because it required an RFP, and so thanks to Jean. In addition, the Montauk Child Care Program, there were some changes with the local daycare provider, and we once again worked with Jean to fill this void, and then we all worked seamlessly with Project MOST to ensure the continuation of the vital child care services for Montauk families. Our 2025 goals.
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
Because I just realized that there's one other thing. We upgraded the walking track, right, at the senior center.
Right, that was part of that, right? You're right.
Because there were issues with it. We made it wider.
We made it wider.
And so that, because you have a walking club and folks.
Yeah, that's true. We did do that.
Yeah.
The 2025 goals include expanding grab-and-go engagement. See, while grab-and-go is successful in reaching new participants, we recognize the risk of social isolation. So for 2025, we aim to create more opportunities for connection. Some of these ideas I'm not sure about, but I think they might work. We're thinking of a grab and stay, perhaps picnics or a tailgate, I'm not sure. That's just, the guidelines from the state are still being put together, as far as what grab and go requirements will be, but including socialization is important.
Diane, would you just say what grab and go is?
Sure. It's where you can come and pick up meals. So instead of coming in and eating a hot meal every day, you can come once a week and pick up 5 frozen meals and take them home and eat them when it's convenient for you.
Thank
We are thinking maybe virtual and phone outreach to assess social isolation and offer referrals. The goal is to build relationships through grab and go that will help our participants engage with additional services they might need. You know, because we have a lot going on there, wellness, and if you're not coming in and seeing it, you might miss it. So we'll try to do more outreach. We want to expand our Wellness 60+ programs. Our aging population isn't just interested in traditional activities, but would like more diverse and inclusive programs. This year, we added Zumba on Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. to keep things fresh and engaging, and very loud, I might add. It's very active. Bilingual programs. We're partnering with Ola now, and we're offering bilingual Tai Chi classes, and we're working with local artists to offer art instruction. Also, we're looking into flexible scheduling, because based on feedback, we're offering more afternoon classes such as painting and drawing and film screenings. Actually, today there's a 3 o'clock film screening, you know, for people who might want to come later in the afternoon. This way we can make programs accessible to more seniors. We plan to increase the availability of our senior shopping and prescription pickup programs to ensure all seniors, regardless of location, have access to essential services. The center facelift continues, as we will be doing the power washing and staining, and then our building will have a fresh new look. Later classes, since the shift to a later chair yoga time was successful, we'll explore offering additional classes at later hours. And the walking track. We're reintroducing the walking track with new activities, including a Walk with the Supervisor event, which we think will be the kickoff, which will be a casual opportunity for seniors to connect with Kathy while enjoying the outdoors. And continue to increase our safety and security, since the center continues to be a hub of activity throughout the week. Adding cameras around the building and upgrading our locking system will help ensure the safety of everyone who uses the space. I'd just like to share our 2024 performance numbers. So 18,136 grab-and-go meals were prepared for 129 seniors. 10,718 congregate meals were prepared for 206 seniors. 10,010 senior transportation rides were provided to 141 seniors. There were 162 senior shopping assistant trips. 20 seniors received 1,320 hours of expanded in-home services assistance. 140 Wellness 60+ participants attended wellness classes. There were 91 club participants, and they would be participating in yoga, not in yoga, knitting, bingo, and clubs such as that, Marjan. 79 seniors received residential repair assistance, and 198 community members received case management services, and this includes youth, adults, and seniors. So, final thoughts. In 2024, we've laid the groundwork for a more inclusive, active, and engaged senior community. And in 2025, we're ready to build on that success. From expanding transportation to offering more diverse wellness programs and ensuring the safety of our facilities, we're committed to meeting the evolving needs of our residents. And thank you for your continued support as we move forward with these initiatives.
Thank you, Diane. Does anyone have questions or comments?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this first. Diane, you're a delight to work with. So thank you for the job you do there, and to all the staff. You know, you go into your facility, and truly there's just such a great sense of camaraderie amongst the staff, but also amongst the residents who visit the center. You continually evolve the programs that are being offered. We've recently used, you mentioned, the arts program, because you felt there's a need there for that. So I think your innovation and leadership in that department are great. And I truly, as a resident with senior parents, greatly appreciate what you do. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you, Diane. John, you're up. Welcome, John.
Still morning, good morning. All the photos you're going to see are from the town's website. Over the last several years, we've been creating web pages for like various parks and beaches around
I'm
the
going to
town.
just pull the microphone just so that it's directing. Yeah, thank you.
And the goal with what we do with the website is theoretically, any question about recreation could be answered just clicking around. So I'm always encouraging everyone, if you can think of something we don't have on there or something to change, or maybe we missed something, let us know, make those changes. On here, we have a picture of the Lars Simonson Skate Park out in Montauk, which was redone a few years ago. It's a beautiful park. Let's have the new Honorable Fred Thiel recreational facility at Stephen Hand's Path. That's an aerial photo of the new turf fields that were done. And then we also have a shot of the Nippergard tournament from a few years back at Big Albert. So give you an idea of some things we do. What we're going to go through here is not exhaustive, just some examples of some of the stuff we do or did or will be doing going into next year. So our mission statement. So here we have more photos. We have the turkey run from a few years ago. We have the entrance to Kirk Park Beach, and also the new walking trail at Buckskill. So the mission of the Recreation Department is to provide the town of East Hampton with a wide variety of safe recreational opportunities, programs, and events for all ages. Depending upon the time of year, our department staffs anywhere between 30 to 180 or more full-time and part-time employees for positions such as recreation aides, beach attendants, lifeguards, recreation specialists, and office assistants. The Recreation Department not only runs programming at multiple East Hampton Town facility, beach, and park locations, but we also at times utilize non-town locations such as Havens Beach and Sag Harbor, local public school facilities, and the YMCA. And the Recreation Department also works with the Montauk Chamber of Commerce, who assists in administering the annual Turkey Run for Fun in Montauk each Thanksgiving. Basically, it is our job to make sure that the residents and guests of the town of East Hampton has fun. So,
That's a great job description. Yeah.
a little lengthy, but all right. So just some accomplishments from last year. An important highlight from 2024 was our ability to hire the greatest number of lifeguards ever for a season. We had over 140. Due to the town board's decision to raise lifeguard salaries, we were able to delay staff drawdowns to later than normal at ocean beaches at Summer's End. And we were able to keep the bay beaches open longer than we typically can at the end of the season because kids go back to college. So thank you to town board for allowing us to better watch over our beaches and the safety. The Thanksgiving Day Turkey Run for Fun once again saw another milestone achieved in 2024. Despite the bad weather that we had faced in hosting the event, where 614 runners showed up to brave the elements, it was a rainy day. Registration still managed to slightly surpass 2023's record registration by 29 participants, bringing our best total ever to 1,165 who signed up. That allowed the town to donate the net proceeds from the race, just over $15,000. It's $15,648 to the local food pantries, and that had exceeded the previous year, which was a record, by about $574. So that was a good thing. This past fall, the Recreation Department upgraded our lifeguards rescue vehicle fleet by obtaining 2 new jet skis and 2 new pickup trucks to replace older ones for this upcoming season. The 2 new pickleball courts at the end of South Erie Street in Montauk received their last step of completion in the spring of 2024 when the surfaces were painted and striped. That same project, I didn't include it on here, I should have. We also had completed the resurfacing of the basketball court at the Montauk Skate Park. We had replaced the baskets there with new glass backboards, 10-footers, and we also added 2 8-foot baskets there as well, so our kids can shoot around. And it's been widely used since that change. In a joint effort with Land Acquisition and Management in 2024, our two departments completely redesigned the circular 6-hole disc golf course at Buckskill Meadow Preserve to a figure-8-like design with 12 holes, some new unique features, while also changing the configuration of all 6 original holes. And the course is currently open and will be fully completed this year, which is some of the changes are still happening. We also we have a disc golf webpage on the town's website, and on that page you can also find an updated scorecard that you can also print out from home if you want to play the course, and it also has a printout you can do of a map of the course. So we have that in there as well. And we added a new lifeguards webpage to the town's website, highlighting our junior lifeguard programs and lifeguard certification programs as well. So check that out. So it's just some things that we did last year. Just some things upcoming this year. Since our cadet lifeguard program, which is for ages 15, had more than doubled, actually it might have even quadrupled if we look back at the numbers in 2024. We're hopeful that this will lead to more recruits for the 2025 season. And speaking to Johnny Ryan, our chief lifeguard, yesterday, he has right now about 16 of those cadets now want to be lifeguards this year, and that's the most he's had to start a season to this point. We might even still get more. As per suggestion from the Disabilities Advisory Board, we are planning to add QR-coded signs in 2025 to the handicap parking space signs at lifeguarded beaches to provide a quick access link to the town's beach wheelchair information webpage. So basically, if someone pulls up and they park in that spot, they can just scan it right there and get information of how it works. There's also a photo of the beach wheelchair on there, so folks know what they're expecting if they're going to be utilizing one. At the end of 2024, we purchased new outdoor AED cabinets to house publicly accessible AEDs for selected ball field comfort station locations, which will be installed to be ready for the spring. These are being installed as we speak, and they might even be ready by this weekend. So we're very close to having them completed.
Can you just explain the 2 locations that they're going into?
Yes, Stephen Hans Path and Lions Field, baseball field comfort station.
And can I just explain that just one more, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I mean, at those locations, the recreational facilities are used year-round. Right now, we all understand the need for medical emergencies to happen, but a lot of times I don't have to tell Tom this, the sooner potentially you have an AED on site, you might be saving a life. We've seen that most recently at the high school. Then 2, these cabinets are tempered controlled, so they can be actually used during the wintertime also, very similar to the one that was installed at the high school last year outside. So again, it allows individuals to have that extra aid of medical need and device if needed, hopefully never needed. But the town is doing that at our facilities now, some of our most used ones. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we can install more of them as we go in the future seasons.
Thank you, David.
John, thank you, John, because that's a great one. It's just another level of protection that allows us to sleep at night then too.
Next one I have on here is the new multi-sport turf field project is expected to be completed in 2025 at the newly named Honorable Fred Thiel Junior Recreational Facility at Stephen Hans Path. At a recent town board meeting, we had announced our planned adjustments for the upcoming spring soccer season with regards to scheduling our 2 leagues on one field while the turf field is being constructed. And we have that information. You can just contact our office how we change times around, and we're pretty psyched for next fall when we have that field. And the last one is just an ongoing goal. It's just always there. It is always our goal to grow our recreational options for the town of East Hampton, for its community. And if anyone listening or watching has a particular skill, talent, or expertise which they can add to our menu of recreational opportunities for the public, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Maybe we can create a new program. The one thing I would want to add is just a couple of stats from last year. I don't have a stats page, but I'll just read these off. These are just general. Beach parking revenue, not including the 2 new zones, so it wouldn't be fair to add that in, but just from what we had from one year to the next, went up by 18.5% last year. Recreation programming that has a cost involved grew by about 5%. Free recreation programming grew by about 21% participation. Picnic area and pavilion reservations actually dropped by about 25%. Since COVID, those numbers have been lower. We think it's because it's just cost of insurance is just higher. The feedback we get from folks are, we just don't want to spend the money on insurance, and then they know if they go to the site, they'd have to share it with someone else. But that's probably the only reason we can think. I can't think of any other reason why. Ball field booking revenue went up by about 3%, and lifeguarded beach attendance by the public basically went up almost 16% this past year. If you combine all these stats, it says that more people had fun in 2024. If I could I just make some announcements of stuff that we have for programming right now? So the lifeguard, junior lifeguard, and Nipper guard training programs, the training, evaluation, and testing at the YMCA is currently available for registration on the town's website, along with our lifeguard certification courses. Please check the dates for when each begins, because they don't all have the same calendar schedules. Spring soccer, grades 1 through 6, is also available for online registration. The leagues start on April 5th. And the annual Easter egg hunt for ages 12 and under at the Lieutenant Lee Hayes Youth Park is scheduled for Saturday, April 12th at 12 noon. And
Do you know how many years we've been offering the Easter egg hunt?
before I came, I'm here, this is my 18th year, so I don't know when it started. So it's been going on since before we were here. Yeah.
It's got to be 20 years or more.
Oh, yeah.
So that's mostly my liaison report too. So John, thank you for that, for the hiring of lifeguards and such then too. It's been a pleasure to work with you and your staff. We're constantly trying to reevaluate what the needs for the recreational needs and population for the town is, and that's just not for youth, that's for seniors also then too. And you've always had a very open mind about what to add, not to subtract something, but to add something. Where is conflict? How can we take care of that conflict by either use or growth of new recreational opportunities then too. So for you and your staff, thank you very much for that personally then too. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
Thanks for your support as well.
I've gotten some outreach from folks about pickleball. Could you just kind of summarize where folks in town can play pickleball and what's coming?
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 outdoor locations. The 3 tennis courts at Spring School. We have pickleball lines also on the tennis ball. On the tennis line, for the court. So you have 2 different sports. Sometimes pickleball and tennis communities don't mesh very well, but they each can play at these locations. So at Springs, and then out in Montauk, we built the 2 new pickleball courts that are there. They're just dedicated to pickleball, but the 2 tennis courts that are adjacent to those also have pickleball lines as well. So you can have up to 4 courts going at once there. And at the Montauk Playhouse, we have 3 courts that we set up daily, and we run multiple programs there. Enrollment for that is really high. It makes the Playhouse a very busy place, and it's a very vibrant community. We started pickleball back in 2012 before it actually became popular. Newsday hit an article, I think it was around that year, and it just started jumping. And we started that first year, I think we had about 39 waivers. There was a group of 8 ladies that got together, said, hey, start a pickleball. I had known about it. No one was playing it, so we started it, and we got about 39 people signed waivers that year. That doesn't mean only 39 played, but or how often they played. They probably played a lot. But can you guess? What would you guess? Like, we started out in this is a shocking number. In 2012, we started with 39 waivers. So basically you sign a waiver for the year and then you can keep playing. So how many waivers do you think we might have filled out last year?
750.
Not bad.
751.
749.
My guess was much lower, so I am going to be surprised.
879.
Wow.
Yeah. So pickleball is pretty popular. That doesn't mean that they all show up every week, but
Right.
That's 879 people at minimum played once. And so other folks play all the time. So, yeah.
So then what we've got pickleball courts.
Oh, yeah,
coming.
sorry, yes. And then we're looking to add pickleball courts over next to the Terry King Ball Field, so 3 pickleball courts there. And we've had discussions in some other places as well, so.
Well, it's in the capital
Yeah,
plan
we have
for
the cap.
2025.
We have the cap budget to go to engineering to add pickleball courts at Stephen Hans Path at the Honorable Fred Thiel recreational facility. And we're even looking into a long-term conceptual plans to add them for youth at the Lee Hayes Youth Park then too.
Yep.
Because I know pickleball is being played in schools a lot of times also. So that's another location that we can forward think as we look at potential designs for there then too. So yes, it would be.
And it's 8 courts, correct, at Stephen Hans Path?
I think
Looking at potentially 8, yeah.
potentially 8, maybe more, depending on some of the drainage implements and how it might work together with the multi-use field. That's going to be complete by mid-June, actually, then too. So yeah, I think that's a minimum on there. But, you know, again, with that, you might want to put a shade structure in there also because it gets hot, but they also get very well used. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
I haven't tried it, try it. You'll probably like it, so.
Do you play?
I've played, I'm an old tennis player, and I got into it in COVID. My son and I, we built a temporary court on our driveway, and that's when we started really playing. But yeah, it's a fun game, so.
Yeah, there's some pretty good skill out there in Montauk playing.
Yeah, there are. You get former tennis pros out there playing. You have yeah, and it's great because
I've seen former supervisors out there playing.
Yes, very frequently. Yeah.
Anyway, John, thank you so very much.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you,
it.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, so now we have a presentation from Joanne Pilgrim, our Community Development Program Analyst. And I just realized there's a typo on the agenda. It's the Community Housing Fund, CHF, 2025 First Time Home Buyer Assistance Program. It's a mouthful.
Good afternoon.
Welcome, Joanne.
It's not going to be easy to follow the Minister of Fun.
Yeah.
But as you said, I'm representing the Office of Housing and Community Development to discuss the First-Time Homebuyer Assistance, Down Payment Assistance Program, and some recommendations for changes in 2025. This program started in 2024. It's funded by the Community Housing Fund, which is the dedicated revenue source that comes from the 0.5% additional tax on real estate transfers. It was launched in June of 2024, and we've had 6 applicants so far that have gone through or are engaged in going through the process. One closing has occurred with down payment assistance. Another one is scheduled for this week. 2 closings are pending, and 2 people are out there shopping for their house. We accepted applications for the 2024 pilot program through the end of December. And then we took a look at all aspects of the program and looked at the experience we had gained and looked at other programs and assessed what we thought might be good specific recommendations as we go forward. That was in conjunction with the Community Housing Advisory Board, and we developed recommendations for this coming year, or this year, which was discussed by the Community Housing Advisory Board as well. So the next slide just shows the basic overview of the program. What we've offered are no interest deferred payment loans to help people obtain a house. The money can go only for the down payment and closing costs. It would be paid back in full at the time of a future home sale. The recipients must be people who are considered eligible individuals per the Community Housing Fund law. And I'll discuss the details of that later. It's basically a maximum income. They must also be first-time home buyers as defined in the Community Housing Fund law, which means that they have not owned a primary residential property in the last 3 years or be married to someone who has owned one in the last 3 years and not own a vacation or investment home. The recipients must live or work in the town of East Hampton, meaning they're defined as a resident. That definition is actually either a current resident, someone who has been a resident within the last 5 years, or someone who works in the town of East Hampton. And in order to qualify for assistance for down payment, the house that's being purchased must also meet the price limitation that is prescribed in the Community Housing Fund law, and that'll be on that amount will be on a future slide. So these are an overview of the recommended changes for 2025. The first thing would be to increase the down payment loan size from $30,000 to $40,000. We have to update the maximum home purchase price and income limitation for 2025 per the Community Housing Fund law. Those things are tied to benchmarks that change from year to year, so it changes. We recommend setting a liquid asset limit for loan applicants, and that, again, will be detailed in a forthcoming slide. We also recommend requiring an ongoing annual recertification for people to verify that they continue to meet the program requirements. And along with any changes, we would recommend updating and adopting a new administrative plan that would clarify and expand upon the program eligibility and administrative process. Along with that, we were working to improve the information provided to applicants and also clarify for town staff the procedure as we process these loans. So the changes to the existing requirements that we have recommended for 2025, in a little bit more detail. The increase in the maximum down payment loan from $30,000 to $40,000 would provide more help to recipients. The Community Housing Advisory Board, in conjunction with the town board, and we had already sort of budgeted about $1.6 million for various loans from the Community Housing Fund. That included first-time home buyer and ADU construction assistance. So of that $600,000 that we had earmarked for down payment assistance, that would equate to 15 individual loans at $40,000 each. That $40,000 would be essentially the equivalent of what we expect would be a 10% down payment for some of the homes that would be forthcoming on the Cantwell Court subdivision. The least expensive homes, and this is to be determined, but maybe in the $400,000 range, so that would cover a full 10% down payment. And we felt that the $40,000 could provide a significant portion of a required down payment for other home buyers on the open market. And then the update of the maximum home purchase price and income limitations, that's pretty cut and dry, just according to what the benchmark is in the law. The changes would actually go from, in 2024, the maximum home price was $1.665 million. And in 2025, that's gone up to $1.768,500. It's basically 150% of the home price that's established by the Sunny Mae low interest rate loan program for our area. And then the maximum household income for eligible participants in this program cannot exceed 100% of that Sunny Mae low interest rate loan program. So in 2024, those figures for a one or two person household, and you heard me say this in another presentation last week, was $184,680. Or a household for three or more people, the threshold was $215,460. And this year that's gone up. For one or two people, the household income threshold is $187,440, or for three or more people in a household, it's $218,680.
Didn't go up that much. It's not much of a change in income versus the change in the maximum house price.
So some of the requirements that we are recommending: setting the liquid asset limit for loan applicants. So that's in order to assure that the people who are receiving these loans are the people that are most in need. The liquid assets would include checking, savings, and investment accounts, but not pensions, IRAs, or other tax-deferred types of accounts. Right now, there's the income limit, but it is standard practice, we found, with these types of programs to limit both the income and the maximum amount of liquid assets. We found that those rules vary pretty widely between different types of programs that we reviewed. And what we recommend is to basically limit the liquid assets to $353,700. The way we derived that was to think about the maximum house price for this program, which is at $1.768,500. A 10% down payment for that would be $176,850. So presuming someone would have enough money for a 10% down payment, we figured that they should also be able to have that same amount in reserve for liquid assets. In other places, for instance, the county allows liquid assets of up to the full price of the house. There's another township on Long Island that just sets the number in relation to a HUD threshold at like $60,000. So it ranges widely, but this is their rationale for coming up with that number. The annual recertification would be to enforce the requirement that the property is the recipient's sole legal residence throughout the life of the loan. So it would be an annual monitoring affidavit that would be sent to the property owner and would have to be signed, notarized, and returned to verify in writing that they remain the current owners of the property, that the property is currently occupied as the loan recipient's sole legal residence, and that no interest in the property has been sold, rented, or transferred. Some of the administrative procedures we'd like to fold in for 2025 and recommend that the town board adopt a new administrative plan that would include these, would be to clarify that the properties that are being purchased have an updated certificate of occupancy as required by the town code. Clarify that the properties may have accessory dwelling units if they would otherwise be able to meet those regulations.
Can I just add there, Joanne, would you just articulate that an accessory dwelling unit under this code must be affordable? So it's
they have to be rented according to our affordable.
It's affordable accessory dwelling unit.
Right. But we didn't want to
I'm just going to say that that's going to be a discussion we're probably going to have at the next work session, because there's recommendations from the ADU committee relating to that. So I know it's a bigger discussion we've had with Ian too, with the affordable housing overlay. It's just, what does affordable mean in this town anymore? And I think that that's something that we need to really hone down.
Yeah, my point is that the code is written to help people have another living unit on, residence on their house, on their property, which is something that we're all encourage folks to look into as a way to maintain our year-round community. But the point is that this is not for a guest house or for any other use. This is for an affordable accessory dwelling unit.
Correct.
Well, the only, not to get too deep into the weeds, but I think currently the code regulates what you can charge for rent, but not income.
That's correct.
And this would be part of that same program. So affordable in one way, yes, but, and as Tom says, that could be a bigger discussion.
This clarification would just simply make it clear that a home that's purchased with the help of a down payment assistance would be treated like any other property in terms of whatever the regulations are regarding ADUs.
Right, because we've had to do resolutions lately for folks because it was when they bought the affordable houses from the town, they had the prohibition of putting an ADU. So we've done resolutions. So that just.
So we thought it would be better at the outset to say, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, we use acronyms so often, and I just want to make sure the folks listening in understand that this is an affordable program, affordable, part of our affordable housing program.
Okay. We would also clarify the types of mortgages and financing that were acceptable. For instance, just to say that the mortgage would have to be obtained from an accredited financial institution. 100% financing would not be acceptable. Those kinds of things. It's kind of standard banking type of things that we have not yet articulated in the program. We would also articulate that the way it would work is that once someone is approved for the program, our office would issue a purchase certificate to those people that will verify that they're eligible for the down payment assistance. That way, when they go out and look for a house, they will know that they will be able to have that help, and that the certificate would be active for 1 year, and with an ability to renew it for an additional 6 months. After that, we would recertify people financially in order to do the renewal to make sure they're still eligible for the program. And then the other thing that's recommended as far as administrative procedures is that rather than the town board holding public hearings individually on each application, we recommend that you hold one public hearing at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of this program year, which is now, for the program and the administrative plan as laid out, and that then we can then process the applications administratively, except for when it gets to the point where you pass a resolution in order to approve the actual funding. So next steps.
The way that would work is we kind of like what we're doing with the management and stewardship plan for CPF. We do it up front, but then at that point, right now you've earmarked 600,000. So would that be part of the public hearing of how much money was put in, let's call it the pot, for first-time home buyers?
It could be, I assume. We're thinking that that number could be somewhat flexible if there happens to be more money available and, everyone agrees that there should be more put to this if we get a lot of applicants. But yeah, certainly it could be laid out what the anticipation is.
Yeah, I think the budget would be part of the plan, and should there be, huge interest and we wanted to extend that or expand it, I think we could at a later time.
Thanks. Next steps, obviously discussion by the town board of the recommended changes. And scheduling a public hearing on a new administrative plan that reflects whatever the consensus is, and then having the public hearing and adopting the new administrative plan, and then we would open the program for applications.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Joanne. I appreciate the presentation and all of your work on this, and Housing Director Eric Shantz as well, and the whole CHAB, Community Housing Advisory Board Committee. Yeah, I think this is a great program. I think that I was really encouraged last year by the number of applications we got. I think there were 6 issued, and the type of people who were applying. I think that, many represented the people that we all talk about that we're losing in our community, people who can't afford to stay and struggle to buy a house. And to see this get people over the edge was really, really encouraging, and I'm excited about the future of the program. I think the most important thing here is making the process administrative so that we sort of settle on what our policies are, what the requirements are, and then rather than going on an individual basis, which it takes a long time to schedule a public hearing. There were at times issues with the timing of closings and stuff. And so, and also, I think just from a privacy standpoint, individual people purchasing a home to have to come for their own public hearing might be unnecessarily invasive. I support wholeheartedly the assets as one a part of the conversation, and I think that what they laid out there makes sense, which is about $353,000. I think that's open for debate. As Joanne said, people have thresholds much lower than that or higher, and I think that that's a choice that we have to make as a town. For me, this seems like a fair starting point, and of course we can adjust in years going forward. I also think the recertification is important, so that if we help people buy their forever home or the place that they live so that they can stay here, that remains their home and it's not an investment or a second home or an extra thing, because remember that the $30,000 first-time home buyer assistance is repayable to the town at the time of sale. And so if you have multiple houses and you're still holding on that money, it ends up hurting other people who could benefit from that program. So I support that. And it's a fairly simple process. So to be clear, we're not going to income qualify people every year and go through a really elaborate process. Just have them certify that they live there, it's their primary home, and that the intention of the program still remains intact. The only other thing that I would say is, again, for me, the timing and making sure that this program works in an efficient way for people who are trying to use it is very, very important. And it's sometimes hard to thread the needle. We don't want people applying to this before they're in contract, for example, but then they have a year with a 6-month extension. I think we might want to look at a year extension, just because I don't know how long it would take somebody to get the original certification. And, after that 6 months extension would expire, I think they could apply again, and we might be creating more work. So I'd be curious what other board members think. But I would propose a year with a 1-year extension. So essentially, once you're approved, as long as you remain qualified, you could, have an extra bit of time. And other than that, I would just say thanks again to everybody. I think this is a great program, and look forward to helping more people buy their first home in East Hampton.
Thank you. No, I think this is a great program. Thank you to the Housing Department for putting this forward. I mean, look, it is striking when you look at that number for 2025, that the maximum home price of 1.768 million. I mean, like, it's such a huge number. And when you compare that to people's incomes out here, there's just such a disconnect. And I think we're facing this in different areas. So it emphasizes, one, the importance of this program of helping people make that step. I'm largely supportive of your extension proposal. Seeing what we've run into in the last year and the nuances and having to work with, other agencies that might not have the same timelines as us, allowing that flexibility, I think would be smart. I look forward to seeing this program continue.
Would there still be a resolution that we put on for when, even through the administrative program, if there's not a public hearing, a resolution put on for when funds would be expended?
I believe we'd have to have a resolution for the funds, but we wouldn't have to have each individual home buyer come and sort of have the public hearing based on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne. We'd still have to agree as a board, say, hey, the Housing Department recommended this. We agree, here are the funds. So they can't release funds on their own, but there's not this extra day, extra step with a 30-day notice. So yes.
Okay, I understand that, and I'm supportive of that then too. And even if you get to a point where the funds get all extinguished in one calendar year, or before the calendar year, as you put it into it, we can actually even have another public hearing to say where you want to transfer in another $100,000 or whatever it might be, $300,000 into the same program then too. So that would actually be a successful.
Right.
If we got to that point.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I think we're telling the Housing Department, hey, we're comfortable spending this much money as long as applicants are qualified. If we get to a point where the town board decides we want to spend more, that would require another conversation. So I agree with what you just laid out.
And I've always had some concerns about what's in the general obligation law, what defines a first-time home buyer. A little bit, maybe I had my cynical hat on for this one then too. If you've owned a house within the last 3 years, you're still considered first-time home buyer on there. My cynical hat says you've owned the house sometimes. Yes, and there's situations, the reason why you might not own it anymore. Sometimes you can just be flipping houses on there then too. So I know we can't necessarily change that within here. That's something that's going to take potentially state ledge on there. But the backstop or the guardrail for us would be that the option, as you discussed, for liquidity on it then too. That's another guardrail to the program that we can control on a local level compared to something we might have to change in state ledge. My only other thing is, personally, I know we've been at 30,000, go to 40,000. I'd rather give out more loans than necessarily more amount of a loan right now. And if it's a difference of another 5 potential loans per year for the same amount of money, I'd rather stick at 30 and give out more than 40. And that's something that we could talk through on there. If the program's successful, I'd rather see more individuals take advantage of it immediately. And too, so that's something I would like to discuss with the board there.
I apologize, David. I agree wholeheartedly with that. In fact, I should have said that. That's my mistake. I think it should stay at 30,000. I think that we had interest. This made a difference for people, and we have a lot of other affordable housing needs. So this program is great, but we don't want to use up all of the money. So I spoke with the Housing Department. I spoke with the chairman of CHAB and let them know that I was going to recommend that. I'm sorry that I didn't, and sort of you covered for me. But I agree. I think it's appropriate to keep it at 30. And again, we can reevaluate going forward. And I understand the thought that went into it with Cantwell Court, but I think the program is already effective and being utilized at that price. And I would budget it 20 loans at $30,000 rather than 15 and 40, just like you said.
And I'm not covering for you. It's just my opinion on it. And if it's
no, you're right. But my mistake for not.
No worries. It's just that the program is it's novel for us right now, and I think in some things, as we see, we make changes. Let them settle in to see how they settle out, or reformulate then too. And if it's successful, I guess a lot of people would say, what's the definition of success? My definition of success is more individuals as first-time home buyers into homes on there. And if individuals want to try that, I'd rather have more opportunities there. And then we can come back to maybe next year if you wanted to say in early 2026. It's not something I'm taking off the table, but I'd rather see more individuals have an opportunity than to, personally.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I can't articulate anymore. I agree with David and Ian's comments on this. It is an assistance. It's not a full loan for what a down payment will cost. Obviously, I can't see someone being able to put down only 10% on a $1.7 million house. I think after the crash, 20% is the usual these days. But any assistance that we can provide to people to be able to have home ownership in this town, particularly to the people that are looking to buy first-time homes, I'm in favor of. I also agree with streamlining the process because there is a need to do that because, as you said, timings of closings, how long a mortgage is approved for. These all have drop-dead dates. And if we, create a process that takes too long to get somebody through it, we're going to lose a lot of folks and makes people spend a lot of time trying for this and not being able to accomplish it. So I'm in favor of the recommendations.
Just to add on what Kate said, that's exactly correct. This is supposed to be a program that assists, and sometimes the town doesn't control the banks, obviously, and I said drop dead date. That produces a lot of stress on an individual that's already going to be stressed out enough by having a mortgage payment on there then too. So to have a little flexibility, as long as the staff is able to assist on that, I think that's a great one. And then the recertifications, I think, is just something we have to do. We make sure that individuals, are taking advantage of the system. But at the same time, we're here to help them also then too. So sorry, Kate, you're exactly correct. I agree with you there.
All right, so I'm in agreement. I had written in my notes here, staying with the 30,000 and going, and trying to serve 20 community residents for their first-time home buyers. Payment, I support the recertification. As far as liquid assets, I think that, the examples that Joanne cited for other municipalities, I think a $353,700, standard is more than fair. I'm comfortable with the way it's recommended as far as the certificate will be active for a year with ability to renew. I mean, I would imagine you're only getting serious home buyers that are coming forward for this program. You're not going to go through the process if you're sort of kind of in the market for a house. It's typically, so I'm good with keeping it at a year with the 6 months. And I think the annual plan should designate, as I had mentioned earlier, the amount of money we're allocating for this particular program. And in this case, it's $600,000. So what would be the timing, Ian, to come back and be able to have a plan that would be available to notice?
I would like to notice the plan as early as Thursday or the first weekend of, the first week of April. Yeah, I mean.
Is the plan drafted?
The plan is drafted and was circulated. It didn't get posted,
okay.
which I noticed this morning. So if we want to.
Well, we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I understand. No, I understand. I was working on a plan with the department, which was then the basis for this. Of course, nothing set in stone until, we adopt it. But the program has expired, and actually, this is an important point. And going forward, I want to discuss this, in the fall and at our organizational meeting. It's a new program last year that Chab had to go through it and talk about what worked and what didn't work. But going forward, I want to make sure that we have a constant program, and I think we should adopt that at our organizational meeting each year and have that sort of ready to go. I know with, transitions that might be tricky, but I don't want to have gaps here. But with that in mind, I want to get a plan approved as soon as possible so that we can start taking applications.
Okay. All right, so the next topic is our after hearing discussion on the public hearing we had on the gross floor area formula. Kate, do you want to lead us off?
Yes, and I ask for everyone's patience because I want to spend a few minutes just updating the public on some of the statistics of comments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I ask for my colleagues a little bit of patience as I do that. So first I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the community of this town. We heard from neighbors from Wainscott through to Montauk, from every hamlet, and from different areas of every hamlet. And I want to individually thank you for participating and adding your voice to the public hearing, whether you were opposed, neutral, in favor of anything. This is democracy at work, and this is East Hampton, and I thank you all so much. We did have quite an engagement on this. So as you know, the Zoning Code Amendment Work Group was formed to review and address zoning codes for compliance with the town's comprehensive plan. The work group met every Monday as a full group for 1.5 hours, and then as smaller research subcommittees working with many staff in the building department, planning department, code enforcement, natural resources, and the assessor's department. I'm sure I'm leaving some out, but I want to thank all those staff members as well for their hours of help. The committee has presented at 14 work sessions, which includes approximately a little bit over 45 hours of public comment and board member discussion. We've had 3 public hearings on different zoning code amendments, and that was included approximately 8 to 10 hours of public comment. And of course, I'm sure you're all tired of my liaison reports talking about all this over the 22 months. I'd like to state for the public the number of comments, both written and in person, that we received, and the breakdown of those comments at the latest public hearing on the GFA formula. Some of the folks both wrote in for the public record and repeated those comments in person, but we only represented them one time in these numbers, so these aren't duplicates. So we received an amount of 155 total comments in favor of the zoning code work group recommendation of 7% plus 1,300. 69.68% were in favor of that. In favor of a change were 14.84%. In favor of the 7% plus 1,500, which was the notice of the public hearing, was 5.81%. Against any change whatsoever was 7.74% of the comments. And in favor of the industry group's recommendation of 8% of lot area plus 1,600, that was 2.58% of public comment. We can talk about numbers and goals and visions of the comprehensive plan, but I think many of those public comments stated the goals and visions of the comp plan best in their own words, so I'm going to read from some of them. 1, protect the aesthetic charm and historic character of East Hampton. 2, ensure new development integrates seamlessly into existing neighborhoods. 3, prevent the overburdening of local infrastructure. 4, preserve both private and public outdoor spaces. 6, reduce resource consumption and environmental impact. And lastly, encourage long-term residency and community stability for our year-round community. When this group was first formed, we conducted an informal survey of the group numbers on gross floor area. And I was at that time really not in favor of much of a change or any change at all in that first session. But as we then collected more and more data on the trends of house size in scale to lot size, and I saw the relationship between commercialization of our neighborhoods for financial gain, which includes maximizing the economic potential of short-term rentals in relation to house size, and how that greatly added to increasing mass and scale. And then I heard over and over again that the critical housing shortage for young families, for the backbone of our community, our workforce, our first responders, teachers, families that wanted to raise their children here, as generations have before us, and as we heard from the Historical Society of how many people raise children here. When I saw the explosion of house prices and the rental prices were so beyond anything I had ever seen before, $15,000 a month, $30,000 a month just to rent. And the national property management companies coming in to manage hundreds of short-term rental properties, and investment companies coming in to advise people on how they can maximize their investments. When I see our natural resources are degrading faster than we can mitigate, when traffic becomes so unbearable that folks leave well-paying jobs with health insurance benefits because the daily commute becomes unbearable, when we declare a housing crisis and commit to building as much workforce and community housing as we possibly can, and when one of the speakers who works at the Housing Authority told us that 20% of our community are on waiting lists for housing to be able to stay here, to be able to live here, and to be able to work in our town, and that's a number like 6,000 people on waiting lists. And so when the reality of what was happening to our community was proven with data and research, and simply from so many community members who live here who said, please, I cannot recognize my neighborhood anymore. We are losing the soul of East Hampton. My kids can't live here anymore. I knew that my perception of no change or a very small change of what we needed was shattered and changed by the reality that was before me. The working group and the majority by far recommended and supported a change to our gross floor area formula. How big can a house be in relationship to the lot size, and why is that important? We investigated sliding scales and other means of code. We found that they produced an inequality of scale. They set false boundaries on properties simply because they were a foot or so outside or inside of a boundary. They exacerbated the problem in some neighborhoods and created inequality in density in neighborhoods. And in other words, they did not solve the problem, and I felt they were arbitrary. This is why we use a dimensional table based on lot size that is consistent across all lot sizes on the town. And this is why the comprehensive plan, I believe, articulated this formula as the method to establish maximum lot size per lot. Therefore, after months of research and data collection, debate, and discussion, I and the work group supported the recommendation of 7% plus 1,300 square foot to the town and the town board. We did this in 3 presentations to the town board. I agreed to go to public hearing then, and I can now support 7% plus 1,500 to give those with the smallest lots in town an additional 200 square feet of above ground living space and 200 square feet of below ground living space. So that's 400 additional square feet, as I can accept and take responsibility for this additional 400 square feet of living space across all lot sizes. Basements, and when we talked about in a previous recommendation from the Zoning Code Amendment Work Group to include a percentage of finished basements in GFA, that there was so much pushback from folks, particularly from folks with smaller lots, who said the most affordable way to add space to your house was to put it underground, to finish space in a basement, and by including that basement in a percentage of GFA would really hurt their ability to have a livable house on a small lot. And I agree with that after hearing from the community. And that basement living space does not add to mass and scale, although it does have other impacts. When I look at the number of small lots that are below 20,000 square feet in the town, we found that 37% of the lots are under 20,000 square foot. And in fact, 70% of all lots are less than 40,000 square foot. And we call this 20,000 square foot and 40,000 square foot. We call 20,000 square foot a half acre, even though it's actually a little bit more than that in reality. These are builders' terms. 40,000 square foot is an acre. So we are a town of small lots. Then when I fleshed out what 7% plus 1,500 looks like on lot sizes, on a 6,000 square foot lot, on a slab, you will be able to build a 1,920 square foot house without a garage, without a basement. When you talk about a basement, you're looking at a two-story, if it's a two-story house, an actual 2,800 square foot of living space, and on a one-story build, that's 3,840 square foot on a 6,000 square foot lot. On a 10,000 square foot lot, you could build a 2,200 square foot house on a slab with nothing else, and that's not including accessory structures or anything else that you may be able to put on that lot. A two-story build with a basement then brings that up to 3,300 square feet. A one-story build brings that up to 4,400 square foot. On a 15,000 square foot lot, on a slab, you can build a 2,550 square foot house. If you had a basement, it becomes 3,850 square feet. On a one-story house, that becomes 5,100 square foot. And I'll just go up to, on a half acre, you can build a 2,900 square foot house. I didn't flesh out the rest of those numbers. So just to give some perspective. So I support in short, I support, for the reasons I've just stated, the public hearing noticed a GFA formula change of 7% plus 1,500. And one more thing, I apologize to community members who spoke up, some almost in tears, about feeling villainized by the comments that were made at the public hearing. Although I don't think that word was uttered by anyone, and I repeat what I have always said from the beginning. The responsibility for the development in this town does not lie at anyone's feet, but at the 5 people sitting here. It doesn't, if you're allowed to build something, you're not a villain for building it. You're a member of our community. We're all in this together. And we're all part of the same neighborhood. So I apologize to folks that felt that way, but I also recognize that people are angry. Therefore, as I said, I continue to support the 7% plus 1,500 square foot GFA formula change, which is what we noticed for public hearing.
If it's okay with my colleagues, could I say something? I know it's out of the normal order.
Of course.
I've given this a lot of thought, as everybody has. We've talked a lot about this. So over the weekend, I gave it a lot of thought and crunched numbers. I did notify all my colleagues that I was going to make a suggestion, which is to allow some of the allotted garage space to be used for livable space on smaller lots. And I appreciate Kate's comments very much, especially in thanking everybody for their work on this. And Kate, that starts with you and the working group that involved members of the community, a lot of town staff, and then all the individuals who spoke, professionals in the industry, as well as just people concerned about the town. And I do think in almost every case, if not every one, everyone's intentions are good. People care about the town and they're speaking about an issue that's important to them and to our town. So I really appreciate that acknowledgement and that nobody's a villain here. It's a complicated issue we're trying to work through. I'll say that a lot of people who, especially the people who were concerned about, I heard a lot of concerns. Kate gave the stats about people who were for the 7% plus 1,300, and there's no doubt that throughout this process, we've heard from a number of people concerned about, I think, predominantly the size of houses and what the community looks like when they drive around, as well as negative environmental impacts. And Kate even spoke to some of the comments about the comprehensive plan, referring to charm and character, outdoor space, and the importance of the year-round community. And I'm wholeheartedly agree with those concerns, but I think that the suggestion I am making is in line with those. So what I would propose is for lots under 20,000 square feet, for at least part of the garage space, which they're already allowed, as for our last code changes, to have, that at least 300 square feet of that, and this could be debate whether it was all of it or half of it. I'm saying 300 because that sort of lined up with the numbers that we had previously. And if there's any will to explore this further, we'll go through it. I just don't want to get ahead of myself. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think that, when you drive by a house that it would look the same. I'm not proposing any larger structures than are already allowed. It's just what people are doing within the walls of that structure. Same appearance. I want to recognize that some of these are going to be renovations where basements are not an option. If you have an older house that has a shallow basement or a slab, you might not want to tear it down, and I don't think we'd want to encourage, and Kate certainly is suggesting that, a tear down so that you build a full basement and have all the amenities that you might want. I think in some cases that's just not a realistic expectation, and for the people I'm concerned about hurting here, they're usually ones who aren't going to do a tear down with a full rebuild. And I want to be considerate of non-developers. I think that a lot of this conversation and a lot of the problem, frankly, or perceived problems have been driven by development and spec houses, and I'm not demonizing anybody like that, but I think the houses we point to and say, wow, that's too much, I think usually aren't, individual residents who are just trying to expand and make room for their family. And I want to recognize that we have two different categories of people, and we have one code to treat them all. And it's the working class, the local people that everybody cares about here. But I'm concerned they wouldn't have the opportunity to sort of trade up from a 10 or 15,000 square foot property into a bigger one that might need to accommodate a family of 2, 3, 4 kids or whatever it may be. We still have pyramid laws, clearing, setbacks, other regulations that'll all deal with house size. The houses I'm talking about in lots of 20,000 square feet or less are not huge houses. They're not small. I mean, we're talking in the 2,000 to 3,000 square foot range. But I don't think they represent the excess that a lot of us or a lot of people are concerned with. But besides all of that, my main point is that the mass, in my proposal wouldn't change at all. We're talking about the same allowed structure when you drive by that you can see. You could even argue, I think, that a garage might be more physically imposing than a bedroom addition. I'm not a builder, I don't know, but regardless, the footprint and the area a house would take up would be the same. At the end of the day, when I just don't know that I can, when somebody comes to me and says, why could I build a garage here of 600 square feet for, which is not a luxury, it's a normal thing, but they might need a 300 square foot addition for an extra bedroom. And I don't know how I could look at them and say, that makes sense to me. I want to reiterate, I think this has been a good process. Everybody's trying to do the right thing, and there's no perfect solution here for sure. Keeping houses more modest, does that keep them more affordable? I think is a lot of intent, maybe. Are we also then blocking people who have a small lot and can't buy a bigger one from improving? Yeah, so I don't think we're going to thread this needle perfectly and get it right. And I'm not saying that my proposal is perfect, but I believe in compromise. I think we got here through a good process, thoughtful conversation, and we arrived at a formula that I'll admit, I think there's some subjectivity here. I don't think we can take all of the facts and say there is one number that is the answer here. But I followed this process in good faith. I believe in efficient and thorough process. I didn't want to delay this public hearing while we worked it all out. And so now we have sort of the size of what a structure can be. And I just think, again, I can't justify saying you can have a garage, but you couldn't, and part of what I'm proposing would even, I'm leaving open the room that the house would actually be smaller with more living space without the garage. And again, I think we could take that farther if anybody else agrees. So at the end of the day, I think the other thing I do want to acknowledge is the issues related to sustainability and consumption, I think are important, and we should all acknowledge that. And it's, we see that around town, and perhaps extra living space would, take up more resources. I understand that, but I just don't feel comfortable of attacking that point in someone's home for 300 square feet, a relatively modest amount on homes that are not the largest mansions. I really want, what's become clear to me throughout this process is that, a large majority of the community, even people who object to what was publicly noticed, think that there should be a reduction in GFA. I want to vote for a reduction in GFA. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that if we allow for a garage for free and there's no allowance to have some living space there. So I hope we can we'll see what the other board members think. Again, I think it's a complicated issue, but at the end of the day, we have the size of the structure. It's how you use that space. And I want to be able to answer questions that I know are going to come my way when we vote on this as a final legislation. I also want to acknowledge something else as sort of an aside. There are special neighborhoods, I know, where there's unique character, and perhaps we could look at those to set up different rules. We have historic districts where there's different rules and people buy in. It means they can't do as much with what they have, but you get the charm of that area. And there may be parts of town where that would be appropriate. I just don't feel comfortable with this blanket. Well, again, it's not allowing somebody to use the space within the interior walls for particular use without impacting at all the outside space or anything else that I think were the primary concerns coming from people about overdevelopment.
So you may just ask a question on lots that can then have a 600 square foot detached garage, because one of the reasons why we went with the 600 square foot exempt from GFA for attached garages was, one, to make sure we weren't incentivizing more massing on a property by another structure, and two, because we were looking at an issue where people were building much larger than 600 square foot garages, 1,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot garages. None of that counted in GFA, so that contributed to the massing. So the formula for me, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I understand the concern, but for me, what we would need to do then, to be fair and to be equitable, would be to raise the GFA 300 square foot either on one side or change the percentage. And I think that diminishes what we're trying to do in reducing mass scale affordability and sustainability, which we're all tasked with under the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up good points. And look, I from the very early conversation, we were talking about the previous code change. I wanted to talk about GFA as part of that conversation when we were talking about basements, garages. I think it's part of the same conversation. And it's a little bit trickier now that we've already allowed the garages. And so again, I didn't pick this sort of landing spot, but we have something in front of us, and it's what can be inside. In terms of your concern about encouraging another structure on small lots, I don't think that's going to be possible. We've done a few things that would make it even less possible, which is the 10 feet separation from accessory structures to main structures. So on a very small lot, frankly, I think people are going to have setbacks and pyramid concerns before this kicks in. On a half-acre lot, maybe it's more of a concern. But keep in mind that as it's currently proposed, people could still build a detached 600 square feet accessory structure. I do get what you're saying, though, is if you choose to have, this extension of your house and then also have that on smaller lots based on, and the setbacks for accessory structures are greater than principal.
So you can have it behind your house.
You're going to have a lot of difficulty fitting that in. And we could dig a little bit deeper. Again, I don't want to delay this process significantly, but if there's the will to explore this, I'm confident that we could make it so that it works.
So, and you're looking at drawing the line at 20,000 square feet? Is that what you had said? So you think that that's a 7% plus 1,500, that's a 2,900 square foot house?
Yep.
You think that that's...
Well, we're letting them, we've decided, again, as a group, and it wouldn't have been what I drew up from scratch. I mean, as an aside, and I've said this, I read the code about whether garages should be accounted in GFA before our last code change. I just don't believe the code says that they should have been. I know that was the town's consideration in recent years. I've read the code carefully. It doesn't matter. We changed it. But yeah, I'm saying that if you're allowed a 2,900 square foot house, that's the top end of what I'm talking about. And you're also allowed a 600 square foot garage. I wouldn't feel comfortable saying you could do that, but you couldn't have a, 300 extra square feet of living space in place of that garage or as part of it.
Thank you. I mean, I look at this through many things like risk. And what are the risks we're facing as a town? I mean, we talked earlier about housing. We addressed it through CHF. The other two that are related to this very specifically are affordability and environmental degradation. You go through the town census data, and there's obviously a problem on our property ladder because, as opposed to Suffolk County where you have 8.2% of properties are one bedrooms, for the town of East Hampton we're at 3.2%. So, for people trying to actually get into the housing market, it's very challenging. So, by limiting what people can build here, yes, there's an element of affordability that can be addressed, but truthfully, I think there might be a misperception of what's really driving the affordability change in neighborhoods. I think you've hidden it yourself. It's not to do with people building bigger lots. It's due to the commercialization of our residential neighborhoods. And I have concerns here that we're trying to do something to address that indirectly, potentially, and that's really not what this needs to be. I mean, as we've lost that rung on the property ladder, I think, there's a question of how to replace it. My concern here is we did the code change initially, from 12% to 1,600 and then to the 10% to 1,600. And yet we've still seen this happen. So it's the changes in the house size restrictions haven't changed the affordability. They haven't changed the fact that the housing is diminishing. And that is simply driven by the fact that people are able to make immense amounts of money renting out their properties out here in residential neighborhoods. So again, the impact this then has on people who actually live in these properties, I think, is very different. I step back and I look at this at a very personal level. I live on a 1,500 square foot lot. I initially had about a 2,000 square foot house. My in-laws had to sell their house and we built on to make it a 3,000 square foot lot. With this proposed legislation, we couldn't do that. I would have left town. And I think that's a very kind of telling thing that we heard from some members of the public as well. Is a 3,000 square foot lot on a 15,000 square foot? To me, no. I mean, I think, you had the architect who stated too, like, look, it's how you build that has an environmental implication. I think that's a very different piece. I think overall, I have concerns that this is too draconian, even at the 7% and 1,500. Personally, I do see Ian's point additionally that, look, if you're saying someone can build a 600 square foot garage on their property, what is the difference between that being living space and not living space? There's arguments that, yes, you could say it's resources, but if you've been into most people's garages, it's full of stuff. So I don't necessarily buy the resource argument. Truthfully, I think we need to come up a little bit of this. I do appreciate that, the vast majority of public opinion we've received is in favor of what's being proposed. However, it's about 200 voices out of 22,000 houses we have in this town, about half of which are owner occupied. The voices we did hear that came out against this came from a variety of industries, be it building, real estate, or related industries. And I think that needs to really strongly be taken into consideration too, because I think there is an economic discussion here we need to have as well, which is, look, the economy here is not in the best condition it's been. There's changes coming from Washington that are impacting that, but there's also just general changes. We see it in our CPF revenues. They've dropped off from where they were, during the COVID period. And so there's fewer transactions. We have to be cognizant that about 30% of our local population who actually live here are employed in a related business to real estate transactions, be it building, be it real estate, lawyers, et cetera. And, impacting that economy is something I know certainly when I talk to the business committee, they have major concerns about. So I think we have to tread lightly here. Look, as we drop this pebble, is this going to deliver the changes we want, which is it going to change the housing ladder to allow more people to get on? I think there's questions there. I think the truth is there's a different mechanism by which we can do that. Is it going to prevent more environmental degradation? I think there's balances to that argument, pro and against. You know, I kind of, just a rough calculation, if you assumed that we could knock off about, I think it's 500 square feet of what everyone can build on every one of those 22,000 lots, you'd be saving roughly about, I think it's 252 acres, which is equivalent to like 5 years of CPF purchases. We are doing a great job as a town with preservation of our environment through CPF and other mechanisms. Is this a mechanism to pursue that? I'm not sure if it's having that much of an impact on people's day-to-day lives. You know, I think that you have to look at this again from just overall town perspective. I mean, affordability, employee and employer operations, that is one of the biggest challenges we're facing as a town, is finding places for people to live out here. And the impact that this may have on that is something that I have concerns about. Personally, at this stage, I'm leaning more towards the 8% number as opposed to the 7% number. To Ian's point, though, I think we had to be careful with how we treat these smaller lots, you know, because you are impacting people's ability to live.
Thank you, Tom.
David?
Thank you. So my overall goal was to come up with fair and reasonable changes. And I think that the process has been able to accomplish, to get us the information and the data that is needed for the town board to be able to look at that. I think one of the greatest comments I ever had when I was on the town board was a comment when we were discussing the new affordable housing project that was on 3 Mile Harbor. And in that discussion there in the room, it was the question came up: who would like to live in an affordable housing unit overlooking a commercial pit? And one of the people in the room, who I greatly respect, said, "I would." And it was a very honest answer that the individual will take housing wherever we could sort of find it, but need to protect that then too. I'm very happy that that individual continues to be engaged in this and guides us into the point where we're at. Sidebar to bring me forward here. You know that I've been very steady in saying I might not have agreed with everything that this committee or this process did, and that came up when we first did this 22 months ago, and I didn't agree with it all, but I do agree with where we're trying to land now. I think one of the main things we have to do is continue to maintain the historical character of many of our East Hampton's neighborhoods, and this is through either vernacular, design, but also house size. I think what we still have to do is make sure we try to do fair and reasonable decreases in the overall build out, which is the goal of the town's comprehensive plan. And with that, I'm just going to stick to the town's comprehensive plan. Goal 1 of the East Hampton Town Comprehensive Plan, which actually governs what the town board is mandated to do, is to maintain and restore where necessary East Hampton's rural and semi-rural character and the unique qualities of each of East Hampton's historical communities. I feel that what's happened right now is that since this goal was discussed in 2005, our rural and semi-rural character is starting to break. I see it personally because this is honestly the only place that I have called home in my 49 years next week, life frame. And the communities that we're seeing that are being either changed forever based on house sizes right now and development, which I'm not saying development's bad, but when it takes out those rural characters and the semi-rural character, the unique qualities of these special neighborhoods, which there's pockets of them all throughout East Hampton, it's something that we have to protect. So I believe what we're looking at right now by targeting the 7% and the 1,500 where we public heard does affect and does help us maintain that, and it helps us to effectuate goal 1 of the comp plan. Goal 2 is to take forceful measures to protect and restore the environment, particularly groundwater, reduces impact on human habitation on groundwater, surface water, wetlands, dunes, biodiversity, ecosystems, scenic resources, air quality, and night sky, noise, and energy consumption. This discussion does not impact all of this, but it does impact a lot of it then too, and specifically when we talk about energy consumption on there. We're doing great strides in that and looking to our energy codes within the town of East Hampton, but also decrease in house sizes would decrease energy consumption. That's something we heard loudly. So in a very small way, it's a very fair and reasonable balance to assist in goal 2 of the comp plan. I'm going to go into 2 other goals, not in line, in order, and I'll go right back down to goal 7. Goal 7, we protect historical buildings, hamlets, neighborhoods, landscapes, scenic vistas from incompatible development, prevent further loss of the town's cultural and archaeological resources. The part in here where it says hamlets, neighborhoods, landscapes, scenic vistas from incompatible development, I have seen this happen. I've seen this happen particularly in the last 20 years right now. And I think what we're trying to target right now by the 2 phases of this discussion right now, and specifically the last one in this GFA, will help assist in the protection of goal 7, where we're trying to protect, and we're deemed that we have to mandate it to protect our hamlets, neighborhoods, and landscapes. Goal 4 of the town's comprehensive plan is to provide housing opportunities to help meet needs of the current year-round residents, their family members and senior citizens, seasonal employees, public employees, emergency service volunteers, and other workers on there. This is exactly what my fellow council members are saying. This is the one that we have to grapple with all the time. My personal belief, and you've heard it from me in the past, is that I've lived out here, again, as I just said, 49 years, through multiple recessions, 80s, 90s, 2008, and then through the global pandemic. I challenge anyone to tell me that my house or any of my family's house prices ever went down at any of those moments drastically. That didn't rebound within the year. House prices keep going up. And when we look at house prices and how they're deemed, you either go by location or you go by appraised value of the structure. And a lot of times the appraised value of the structure will go by your square footage of your structure. So in a way, I'm targeting a little bit of this as trying to make sure that we deem affordability, not affordable by the law, but affordability based on house size also. And it's the same thing we've done in the Cantwell Court, where we've covenanted that we can't go to past a certain house size to try to keep reclaiming those houses back into our affordable housing stocks. I do feel that by us targeting these fair and reasonable protections to our GFA will also help our affordability, as was stated in goal 4. Lastly, going back to the main goal, which we're looking at right now in the town's comp plan, is goal 3. This is to reduce the total build out of the town to protect the natural and cultural features identified in goals 1 and 2. Rolling that back through, this is the second time, I believe, since the town code that I've engaged in as far as reductions to the gross floor area then too. I think what I've heard loud and clearly that when it was reduced down to 10,600 square feet, it didn't do enough. And we have to find out what the fair and reasonable reduction is here then too. We need these reasonable changes to keep things more affordable long-term for many of our youth, our workforce, and our aging population. The decreases in housing sizes through these means will hopefully potentially have a stabilizing effect on the appraised values of the skyrocketing valuation of structures. The reasonable restrictions still allow for the need for development or individual homes based on the town code and current building standards and methods. As we know, in the town code right now, the minimum size of a bedroom is 100 square feet. And put together with other needs of homes, even with these restrictions on small house sizes, the house would still be able to build multiple bedrooms, bathrooms, kitchens, and living areas. I know we talk and we hear a lot about 20,000 square feet or 40,000 square feet. Quarter acre is 10,890 square feet. A half acre is 21,780 square feet, and acre is 43,560 square feet. So on a quarter acre, okay, by these numbers, specifically a quarter acre, not 10,000 square feet, is actually 2,262 square feet that you'll be able to build under this potential reduction to 7,000, 1,500. Under a half acre, it'd be 3,024 square feet. I know we've been targeting just for sake of 10,000 and 20,000 square feet, and my math teachers at high schools will make that easier, but let's just dig down to the numbers. You can, let's say if you're building a 15 by 15 square foot bedroom, which is a nice sized bedroom. I don't have those. And the others don't. That's 225 square feet. You want to build 4 of those right now. in a house that's 900 square feet over your GFA. You're adding maybe another 250 square feet of bathrooms and vanities, and maybe a 200 square foot kitchen, another 300 square foot of living room. You're at 1,650 square feet there, and that still leaves you nearly 600 square feet on a quarter acre, or almost double that on a half acre if you want to build other amenities. So there is rooms to grow. I'm not going to tell you what to build. I just want to make sure we go here to define what's in the town comp plan and how we protect our neighborhoods. The town board has been reviewing this for nearly 2 years to take an input from our advisory committees, advocacy groups, resident building advocacy groups, individuals that might agree or not agree, individuals that have threatened lawsuits, individuals that have cheered us. Many of the first suite of changes that have been enacted, and even during that we came through compromise. Compromise from withdrawing changes to gross floor area formulations that include the finished basement. This is something that I wanted to look at initially, and I asked the town advisor groups and council member Rogers to look at then too. But understanding how that might affect things, we decided to look more at the gross floor area. Even as recommended, and since we moved to doing this, I believe that this look and approach of decreasing the gross floor area recently through the lot of percentages is appropriate. And where we landed on a compromise and it's reasonable and fair reductions to 7% and 1,500 square feet, I believe is appropriate. And I will vote for that also if it came in front of me to approve. I do want to target and discuss the effectuation date on this. I do believe, as we did in the past, that our effectuation date should allow for time for individuals, that it doesn't alter any submitted applications that have a building permit, and to the building department that requires no other building approvals, and a valid building, or individuals might have a valid building permit. This doesn't change.
Or a complete application into the zoning board or planning or ARB.
Or a complete submission of approvals to submission or approvals to the town's regulatory boards as we move forward. I think that was a request in the past, and that is appropriate of the town board to do, to give individuals the time to be able to guide their clients or their families or their needs effectively. But overall, there has been a lot of discussion here. I believe that the town, we are backed in doing this by the town's comp plan, and I am back. We're come together over the last 22 or 24 months on this. Stay engaged. If you don't stay engaged, that's when things go awry. So stay engaged with government and with your town board on there. Even if you agree or disagree, let's respectively do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. So the last few years, we've had an outcry from our community to reduce, mass and scale and reduce house size. And the zoning code amendment work group went through a very methodical approach over the last 2 years or so. I know, Kate, you shared, and when you presented the 7% plus 1,300, I had some concerns with what that would mean, reducing, that was somewhere for smaller lots between a 22 to a 25% decrease in house size. And I thought that was, for me, it was a bridge too far. But the 7% plus 1,500 square foot seemed reasonable to me. I think that, a 10,000 square foot lot, being able to build a 2,200 square foot house in my world is a nice sized house. I've raised my family in a house that's just under 2,100 square feet. And we have 2 kids. And right now, with being an empty nester, my house is too big. I wish it was smaller. It's more than I want to care for. I do think that, we've had a very methodical approach, as I said, and I know, Kate, you read some of the statistics, but I'm just going to read them again. So, because this was a very robust response to a public hearing. We had 157 people respond. I mean, it was extraordinary. We know how it felt, the day or two before when Carol, all she did, it was an avalanche of emails that we received. And 110 people who spoke out thought that 7% plus 1,300 was what they supported. That's 70% of those that responded supported the working group's recommendation. Another 6% recommended, 9 people, one of them included the East Hampton CAC, recommended the 7% plus 1,500. For me, looking at 76% of the respondents for this public hearing, that's a mandate to me. I'm supportive, and here we are. I'm having a little bit of deja vu because back in December when we were discussing this, it was 2-2 when it came to maximum house size. It was, Tom and Kate, and I guess I was the deciding vote to go from 20,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. Looks like I'm the deciding vote here to go with 7% plus 1,500, but it's something that I support, and quite frankly, I'd like to see the resolution on Thursday night.
Can I just say one more thing? Because most of the support for this I hear is coming from the mass scale perspective, and I just want to reiterate that what I'm proposing, it's considering and respecting the process that got us to a particular proposal and size, and what I'm suggesting would allow for 0 more mass and scale. It's a different use within those walls. And so I just want to make that point because I'm not advocating for larger houses or a bigger structure, more mass, more scale. It's to be a little bit flexible within that parameter. The only other thing I want to say is, and I really appreciate all the public comment here, and I think everybody knows this, it's not just a popularity contest, because I think there's subtlety and nuance. And, that's the job of our board to do. And so it's not just how many people are on one side or the other, although fully acknowledge that we heard a lot of support for a reduction. But I just want to emphasize and reiterate what I'm suggesting would not increase mass or scale.
But there is an ability, because this will be in the zoning code, right? If you needed to convert your 600 square foot attached garage to habitable space, whether that's half of the garage or the full garage, you have the ability to do that through the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, I think you would. And I think we even heard public comments and discussion on the board of concern if what would prevent the zoning board from approving that. And if it's an automatic approval, why are we making them go through the motions?
I don't think it's an automatic approval, Ian. Having been on the zoning board for 10 years, and David probably can back me up on this, there's 5 standards that it's not arbitrary. It's very different from the planning board where there's much more leeway. You have to meet 5 standards. And one of those being that you have a unique circumstance and that there's no other way for you to achieve the need that you have. So it's not an automatic approval, but it is a relief valve for any of the zoning codes that we have. And I support the process, having been part of it for a very long time. So as far as having the resolution, and I thank everybody for.
I think it's an effectuation date.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go over.
July 1st is what we heard.
So, okay.
That was, I think it was the same lead time that we had for the last round.
Amendments.
We adopted in December and it went into effect March 1st. This is, if we were to adopt, right, March 20th, it would go into effect July 1st.
So that is a change from 2017 where it went into effect immediately. I appreciate that change. I think it's necessary. And also, again, I want to reiterate the exemptions. If you've been in the process, you are not impacted as long as you have a completed application in front of the zoning board or the Architectural Review Board. You've already hit that target. You wouldn't have to go back and redo any plans, and also a building permit. And I thank everyone and my board members for all their thoughts and all their concerns. This is a difficult topic, and I really am most happy about the transparency of these of us. I'll commend us on our transparency in having these discussions in public, and taking responsibility publicly for our decisions. So thank you all.
Thanks, Kate. Okay, so now we're up to liaison reports. Tom?
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I will kick off with sanitation. Just advisory to homeowners who have dead pine on their property. Obviously, we had a prior work session discussion from the town fire marshal about clearing that off your property to prevent fire risk. I have spoken with the supervisor of the sanitation department. You are able to bring that disease pine to the sanitation department. It has to go onto the scale. You'll pay to drop it off, but you are able to bring it there. And I just want to make sure that message is out there in public. Moving on to next, we have Licensing Review Board. We will actually have a meeting at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. East End Fire Commissioners, there is a meeting March 25th, 2025, East Hampton Fire Department. Per the direction I've received at this meeting, East Hampton Village will be reviewing the upcoming 5-year dispatch contracts with the different fire districts. So I will report back on that to my fellow board members. Special events and film, applications are starting to roll in. I just want to remind businesses and residents that, there's a few key things we see over and over again that cause your applications to go back to you. The first is an adequate parking plan. Please ensure it's eligible. If we can't understand the parking plan, we cannot process your application. And then the second is that if you are holding an event on a property that is not your own, just to remind you that you have to have written permission of the homeowner in your application in order for us to process your application. Disabilities Advisory Board, we have a meeting this Friday, 1:30 p.m. East Hampton Youth Task Force. We met yesterday. The concerns of that committee still remain the same. Vaping and social media. It's incredibly challenging for the school districts and for parents to address this when you have corporations kind of profiting off the addiction of our youth, bluntly. It's something that I would love for us to send a letter to our congressman to address, because this is causing massive medical issues. It's causing social issues. It's something that's not going to go away without leadership from Washington, quite frankly. Anti-bias task force. I'll talk about this very briefly, and my colleagues might want to talk about this too, but we had a very interesting Zoom meeting with the New York Attorney General last week regarding the state's position on some of the changes that are coming through from Washington and what protections are in place. If people do have concerns relating to that, they can always reach out to our office and we will advise and direct them accordingly. Arts Council, Jason, I don't know if you're hearing me, but if there's a possibility, you could bring up the March Madness presentation I sent over. For the high school, every year, the Arts Council of East Hampton sponsors the East Hampton High School March Madness Arts Competition, whereby the 4 panels, one done by each grade. This year, the winners was the seniors. Unfortunately, the presentation isn't coming up, but congratulations to our senior class.
I was about to bring it up. There's 10 different sub-presentations, sub-slides within this, and I was wondering which one you would like. Would you like the art panel contest results? Would that be better for you?
Please, the results. Thank you.
Let me do that right now, and I'm getting that up in 3, 2, and here we go.
Here we go. Thank you so much. So you can see on the left, that is the first place winner, the seniors. Then you have your second place, which is 11th grade. But just emphasizing the amazing talent we have in our schools. We have an incredible history of artists in this community. It's something that, as we talk about the challenges of affordability, artists are the first people to get pushed out. Their livelihoods are far more challenging than some more defined careers. As we kind of look to encourage the next generation of artists, this is a great program, and it brings immense joy to the students. And I think, as you can see from the work, there's some real talent going on there as well. Then lastly, tick control. There is a meeting this Friday at 4 p.m. Just to remind members of the public, if you have questions regarding ticks, you can email us tickquestions@ehamptonny.gov. And lastly, business committee, we do have a meeting tomorrow, and related to part of what I brought up today will be a discussion around short-term rentals, because this is a problem that's really grown, and I think we need to look at new regulation of some kind as to how to manage it, quite frankly. I know New York State has imposed a tax on short-term rentals. They've recognized this. I mean, there's estimates that this is potentially the largest business in the town of East Hampton by revenue, revenues of over 100 million. So it's something that I think we need to.
Revenue for who?
Revenue for homeowners.
Oh, for homeowners.
property
I
owners.
thought you meant tax revenue.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think one of the issues also, Tom, as I brought up in my last GFA presentation where I linked that together, is that, when we started the rental registry, we wanted to know who was renting in our community, and a past model was a lot of folks for affordability were renting out their house for a month or two, or maybe even in the summer. And so the fees for the rental registry is $100 a year, while these groups that are managing and servicing and advertising are making, $4,000 a week. So we're stuck with these sanitation issues from 10 guests a week, et cetera. So I'm really happy that you're bring, and any way that I can share some of my research on that with you, I'm happy to.
Thank you. And then just Jason, just quickly on the anti-bias task force, you could pull up that one flyer from the retreat, just related to some of the topics we've discussed. There are going to be some public work sessions going on for parents, how to address some of these issues, with your kids at home. I know I face this challenge, and truthfully, the person with the worst addiction to their phone in my household is me. It is. You have to recognize it, and it impacts quality of life, impacts your interactions with your family. And we have to all set a better example. But, mechanisms for doing so, I think the retreat has some great stuff going on there. If you want, and you're on the TV right now, and you want to scan that QR code, it will bring you to some more information.
From your cell phone.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so since John Rooney was here and took half my liaison report, we'll get to lunch sooner. Stephen Hand's Path Roundabout, we're trying to work through delays with Verizon right now. They should have been on site yesterday and today to start splicing in. This also goes into the state project at 114 and Stephen Hand's Path, where there'll be some traffic delays, I believe today, as far as some one lane work going on over there. So please just plan accordingly. The Stephen Hand's Path multi-use field is under full construction right now. Please have caution over there. That looks to be completed by early summer. Actually, maybe even before summer. Actually, summer's on June 21st. In Montauk, the Montauk Bottomlands discussion. We'll have discussions with the town board shortly about this, but we have commissioned our survey for that. I look forward to getting that set so we can move that forward to final stages in the upcoming weeks. East Hampton Little League signups are ongoing and evaluations. Kids are at the fields playing.
Signs up all over town.
Yep, kids are playing at the Little League fields in Stephen Hand's Path. They're out in Montauk playing with their parents. Please enjoy that with them right now. If your kid or your grandchild or would like to play, please contact East Hampton Little League. You can find them online then too. The Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee will be meeting, get some more information by some of our applicants. So I think we're bringing that forward to the town board for discussions in early April.
Yeah, you could let me know when you're ready so
Sure.
I can schedule that for a work session.
Yep. Beaches will be convening town's Beach Advisory Committee shortly. I know the beaches took a pounding this past week, so we'll be looking at that. And lastly, Sunday, March 30th, kicking off at 12 p.m. is the Friends of Erin Montauk St. Patrick's Day Parade. I want to thank the Friends of Erin for being such great stewards of this parade over the years and their participation, and also celebrate and congratulate Joe Blocker on being this year's Grand Marshal. And that's what I have.
Great. Thank you. Kate?
Yes, first I'd like to point out to anyone coming to Town Hall, if you see some grass removed in front of our offices in our little house, and also along the sides as you're coming in, I just want to let folks know that's the beginning of a grassland meadow that Change Hampton will be adding to their pollinator garden, and we'll be giving you more updates on that as it progresses. It's another example of sustainable landscaping that creates tremendous beauty and helps our pollinators and our environment win-win. The Sustainability Committee met. We discussed sustainable landscaping practices. We discussed and looked at some codes that towns in other municipalities have codes for tree protection, which is high on the list this year for the Sustainability Committee as far as an advisory. I was surprised at the amount of Nassau County municipalities that have tree protection laws for mature trees. So the committee will continue to work on that, and we'll be bringing that forward. Also, composting. The composting pilot program was a tremendous success, raised a lot of awareness about composting, and now the committee is looking to promote and educate about the benefits and ease of backyard composting. And to that end, we're looking at, again, other municipalities that are providing bins and some help for folks to be able to establish their backyard composting and an education program. And I'll be bringing that forward again. I had a preliminary meeting with the steering committee for the New York State Resiliency Grant for Montauk. We met at the library in Montauk in a lovely meeting room, and we had a very substantial and very productive first meeting. And in the near future, we'll be introducing you to members of the steering committee of this grant. We're going to start getting going on this with approval from the state. And I was really encouraged at the way that this group gelled together to work together. And we'll be inviting all town board members plus many of community stakeholders in to give us advice for creating the programs, the zoning changes. And when we talked about zoning code changes, we also wanted to emphasize, because even members of the steering committee, that we are looking at a very long-term study. The study itself is going to take 5 years to put this together. And then the recommendations will be a very long-term look. So we're really looking at zoning code changes like overlay districts for the future. So I just wanted to, with all this work on talking about zoning code changes, I wanted folks to know that overlays for the future are part of a zoning code, and that we can use for maybe receiving areas where you can move properties to when that property no longer exists. I also want to emphasize that this is, while we talk about resiliency, and a lot of times folks think about the environment, and that's critical to our resiliency, this is an economic look, how we can sustain the important business engine of Montauk and how we can keep those businesses going and recovering after natural disasters. So we'll be continuing to work on that, and I'll be inviting you all out to Montauk, to the library for some work on that as well. And that's what I have.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, one more thing. Oh, how could I forget this? I'm sorry. On Saturday, March 22nd, Gloria, how could you not give me, the stink eye on forgetting this? Saturday, March 22nd is Earth Hour globally, and this is where we help the planet by raising awareness by turning off all non-essential lights between the hours of 8:30 and 9:30. I'll be presenting a memorializing resolution for town support on Thursday, and I hope everybody, there's flyers available in Spanish and English, and information available on the Rewild Long Island website in both Spanish and English on how you can participate. So that now finalizes.
So you're going to look to have a memorializing resolution for
Thursday.
For Thursday.
I have a
for the town
draft
board?
already. Yep.
I'm very supportive of that.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks
This
for
was
your
something
support.
that Matthew Lester used to, and I'm trying to remember if it was at the spring school or it was the Boy Scouts, but this was, because this has been going on for years and years.
Yes.
And I know that this was something that he had first brought to our attention.
Yes. So that resolution will be on for Thursday.
Okay. Ian?
The Spring CAC will meet tonight at 6 p.m. at Ashwag Hall. Mostly on the agenda are updates about various projects and things going on in Springs. We're always looking for more involvement, so if anybody wants to know what's going on or has anything to contribute, please stop by 6 p.m. at Ashwag Hall. Springs Park invasive species removal began yesterday in pretty tough conditions, but they should be finished as early as tomorrow. And then I'd like to bring that back to the board once the leaves pop out and evaluate how it worked. And, we'll be hearing from the public about that as well.
So you think, because we've been putting it out on social media a day at a time. So we put out that the park was closed yesterday. Then I found out this morning it was closed today. So should we be?
It's really Scott Wilson. I spoke to him before this meeting, before the update. They're working today. The work is finished when it's finished. He is posting on social media of park groups as well as to the town. So I can't say for sure. It may not complete tomorrow, but my best guess at this point is tomorrow. We'll keep posting on a daily basis. And Kathy is right, that park is closed during, for safety of everybody during that process. So if you go early in the morning or late in the day, the park will be open, but during the middle of the day while work is going on, it's closed. So stay tuned for details there.
I think one thing I want to say about it, the reason it's taking this long is because we are being very selective about what is being removed. Anything that can be saved in terms of shade, I know the land management department's gone in and, done a good job on that. So it's not just a quick and easy removal.
Yeah. Tom and I met on site with the land management department as well as a member of the public. Look, it's a big change. That's a lot of Russian, a lot of autumn olives were in there. And so the point of doing this was a test, and we'll evaluate how it went. But
It's only an acre.
Yes. And a lot of thought and care did go into it. And again, this isn't the end of the conversation. I think we'll talk about what the next steps are for that park. The Ag Advisory Committee met last Thursday. I mentioned both of these things previously, but just I brought it to Supervisor Brooke Gonzalez's attention. They would like to give a state of ag address in the coming weeks, hopefully in April, if that's possible, before the farming season gets too busy. Just to sort of give an overview to the board and to the public about all the agriculture we have in East Hampton, which is significant, including parcels that the town has owned and placed farmers on in recent years. A second thing that the Ag Advisory has been working on for many years is sort of a recognition of agriculture, not only as a use, but as a site plan classification, so that if farms are doing site plans, it's recognized as neither residential nor commercial, but what it is, which is agriculture. And I want to give the committee's done a great job on that. Nothing is finalized by any means. That'll be in future months. But I do want to give a lot of credit to Tina and Chris Stecker, Tina Lagaren from the planning director, and Chris Stecker, who's a planner. They were both in that meeting, incredibly helpful with feedback. And again, I expect that what the ag community is asking for, there's going to be a different side to that story. And I think we should have that conversation publicly when it's more ripe. It's not quite there yet. I know Tina shared it with Kate and with the building department, which I think is really, really helpful so that we sort of get all concerns out there. And I look forward to that progression. And that's it.
Great, thank you. I just have a couple of things I want to bring up. Yesterday, we sent out a press release because the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, which is known as GFOA, has once again recognized the town of East Hampton with its Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the town's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023. This marks the third consecutive year East Hampton has received received this distinction, and it's a testament to our town's commitment to transparency and high standards in financial reporting. I'm going to have a resolution on for Thursday night, and that is to authorize a request for congressionally directed spending. These are grant opportunities that are put out by Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, and Congressman Lolota. And Becky has been working with Sam Klein to look at our 2025 capital plan and see which of the capital projects fit with the categories that are available. So we are going to be making multiple applications, and we just need to authorize that on Thursday night. And then lastly, about, I guess, 2 weeks ago, Joe and I attended a landscape therapy workshop, and it was held at the Springs Presbyterian Church. It was the Perfect Earth Project, Piazza Horticulture, and South Fork Natural History Museum in conjunction with Acabonic Protection Committee. And they, you know, it was a really thorough discussion, a lot of Q&A about people's, you know, home landscapes. And one of the things Edwina Von Gaal brought up was that, you know, that the town doesn't use pesticides. And that is something we've always known, that that's been our town policy. I know it was the policy when I was on the Springs School Board. So when I got back to the office, I tried to find where that policy is articulated. And the only thing we could find was a resolution dated November 3rd, 2000. And it was a whereas clause. Whereas the town recognizes the potentially harmful effects of chemical pesticides in ground and surface waters and has now banned the use of non-organic pesticides on town property and taken steps to educate the public toward reducing and eliminating the use of these harmful chemicals, as well as petitioning the state for local regulatory control over pesticide use. We couldn't find, though, the resolution where the town actually had, you know, banned the use of pesticides. Then we found on the town website, which was under sustainable landscaping, we have a green page, Green East Hampton, that had been put up under the Van Scoyoc administration, that all landscape maintenance performed on town properties is done without the use of chemicals or pesticides. So I know it's come up in discussions whether do we allow organic pesticides on town property, or is this a ban on the use of all pesticides? So I think it's important for us to, you know, come back and have a new policy and something that's updated. It's been at least 25 years since it was articulated by town board resolution. And I was hoping that maybe we could take this, Ian, I don't know if, you know, something that you could weigh in on, but the Sustainability Committee, I think, would be a great project for them to come back and advise us on whether or not, I think we're all supportive of a ban on pesticides. The question becomes, do we allow organic pesticides on town properties?
Yeah.
How does that get articulated?
I mean, my immediate thoughts to agriculture. I mean, because that's town lands, and to not allow them to use organic pesticides, I think could be problematic.
I think maybe we would need to make exceptions because it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all because of agricultural lands. But first, I think we need to define what organic pesticides, you know, what are we talking about to begin with? And I think the sustainability, there's a number of people on the sustainability, and we could certainly coordinate, because we don't have to, our committees don't have to work in silos either, to understand what agricultural needs are as well.
Yeah, I think that should be a thoughtful and bigger conversation. And I would certainly want to let the Ag Advisory Committee weigh in, because I think it's a different thing on town-owned properties in terms of town campus versus if the town is actively buying farmland. I think we have to have a very careful conversation about the differences there and what the policies are. Should be. So I'm not going to say everything that I think. I'll have a lot of thoughts. I will say, in terms of if you want to restrict pesticides to just organic, there is an Organic Material Review Institute, which are approved, you know, pesticides that are allowed in organic production as per national certifying. So there is a list there. It's not just wishy-washy. But again, I think we're going to have to take a lot of care, and I'll want to hear from the ag community about what they think about that.
Yeah, and just on regular, you know, on just an aside on homeowners' property, which we're not talking about today, but maybe we will in the future. I felt really good about using organic sprays to fight mosquitoes, but then I learned that because it's an oil, it is organic, it's, peppermint oil or whatever, it also coats all of the pollinators' wings and knocks them down as well. So I think it'll be important to really understand from the Ag Committee what the agricultural needs are for food production. And then looking at what else we do on all of our passive town properties.
Right. And I think it
I look
then
forward to
gets
that.
articulated in our license agreements with organizations that are using town property. All right, so that is our liaison reports, and now we're up for resolutions, and I think, David, you get to lead us off.
I'm happy to offer Resolution 2025-421. This is to reappoint James Kiley to the CPF Advisory Board, which expires March 23rd, 2032.
Wow.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2025-422 is to hire A. Hunting Company, conduct an appraisal, site conditions at structures located at Suffolk County Tax Map 300-80-3-26 at a quote not to exceed $4,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
423 is retained surveyor for additional work for the Lake Montauk dredging project. This is for wall bridge survey, or is not to exceed a total sum of $800.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I have Resolution 424, which is to waive fees for the Friends of Erin and Amagansett Chamber of Commerce. This is where charitable organizations, not including but not limited to not-for-profit entities, shall be recognized as exempt from taxation under the internal, in other words, it's a 501c3, and shall be duly registered with the Charities Bureau of the Attorney Generals of the State of New York, and shall provide services or funds that benefit the residents of the town of East Hampton. Whereas on March 30th, the Friends of Erin, a 501c3 charitable organization, is holding their annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. And whereas the Friends of Erin requested the town board waive the associated special event permits, resolved that the town board does hereby waive the special event fees associated with the Montauk St. Patrick's Day Parade. And whereas on March 22nd, the Amagansett Chamber of Commerce is holding their annual Am-O-Gansett Parade, and it is a civic organization. The Chamber of Commerce of Amagansett requested the town board waive the associated fees. Resolved that the town board hereby waives the special event fees associated with the Am-O-Gansett St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Second.
So can I just call for discussion? So I just have a question and then a comment. So I know in the past, the special event committee for not-for-profits, we've waived their special event fees, but we've never really done it by resolution. So is this a new policy that we're going for every time we waive a fee for a not-for-profit, we're going to be doing a resolution?
Yes. So Jake looked into this one. So the town is permitted to waive fees for 501(c)(3)s or for entities that kind of have some defined public benefit. Whether we want to make that a blanket change so we don't have to do a resolution every time, it open to option. I think the challenge to that is that sometimes we are seeing 501(c)(3)s being used to piggyback corporate events, and in those circumstances we might want to challenge a fee. So I'm not going to name specific names, but I've seen commercial entities put in special applications for a 501(c) that the charity might be getting $500 from revenues of upwards of 100,000, and does that have public benefit?
So I think it might be more expeditious if the special event committee did a blanket that at the discretion of the special event committee, if, and it's, and then you pick up, it's a duly registered with the Charities Bureau of the Attorney General, or it's a chamber event, or it's a fraternal organization, rather than have to do it for every single one.
Sure.
'Cause sometimes these things come up really quick.
So what are the criteria by which we'd want to?
Yeah, I think it's in the first whereas clause. So I think that's would be a better way to do it. And when I first saw this resolution, I also realized that, we don't typically do resolutions for the police department and how they manage the Montauk Friends of Erin Parade. That's the largest special event that they oversee and handle each year.
No, that's the fireworks.
No, according to the chief, the Montauk Friends of Erin is the single largest special event the police department handles each year. The average cost strictly for police overtime is about $35,000. With the collaborative of efforts of East End law enforcement providing an additional 50 or so police officers to assist, we have over 100 sworn personnel on duty for the day, along with civilian personnel support staff. And then there's the mutual aid that's required because we get help from officers from East Hampton Village, West Hampton Beach, Southampton Village, Southampton Town, Shelter Island, and then we have to send officers, 2 or 3 officers, to their similar events, which is another $15,000 in police overtime. So all told, it's a $50,000, in donated, you know what I mean? We're not charging the Friends of Erin. So I think it may make more sense, and maybe I'll put a resolution on for Tuesday to cover the parade, and the police overtime. But I think it makes more sense to do this as a blanket resolution to exempt not-for-profits, fraternal organizations, chambers of commerce, veterans organizations, at the discretion of the special events committee. Plus, this format has to be, there's a resolved in the middle of whereas clauses, so that would have had to have gotten fixed, amended to begin with. So
I'm just missing where it says anything about the police department.
It doesn't, but it raised when I read waive fees, and I'm thinking, well, why aren't we also then including the police overtime? Because we're waiving that as well. So I think it makes more sense to do a blanket for exempting fees for chambers of commerce, veterans organizations, fraternal organizations, and 501c3s at the discretion of the special event committee. And then I'll put a resolution on for the parade just for the police overtime.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the committee and come back to you.
All right.
So I'll second, I'll make.
Motion to withdraw.
I'm withdrawing this?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to withdraw resolution 424.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 425 is to approve refund for 992 Springs Firepost Road Architectural Review Board. And this is where Stell Architects paid $350 to the Architectural Review Board for an application to be reviewed. And it was discovered that the premises doesn't need an architectural review. Resolved that the town board authorizes the finance department to issue a refund check to Stella Lamont and Rahani Architects in the amount of $350.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And 426 is to retain consulting services for 2025. And this is where the town requires the professional services of an engineer for technical review of subdivision, site plans, urban renewal matters, and similarly engineered design-related items for the planning department, planning board, and zoning board of appeals, whereas Vincent Guardiello and Rayner Group submitted a proposal dated January 31st, 2025. Resolved that Vincent Guardiello from the Rayner Group be hereby engaged to provide engineering services on an as-need basis with an amount not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution 2025-427. This is to adopt local law amending Town Code Chapters 255-1, 41D, personal wireless facilities, unacceptable applications, 255-1, 41M, 1K13, activities requiring architectural review board approval, and 255-730H, activities requiring architectural review board approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's all for the resolutions. So do I have a motion to go into exec session?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go into exec session for personnel, advice of counsel, CPF, and leases.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you,